Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto was a reincarnated dragon god who trained the SW. Ord King Naruto x Ghislaine Dedoldia Mushoku Tensei. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Ashes of the Past. Embers of Rebirth. The seventh Hokage exhaled one final breath, his weathered hand squeezing his son's fingers with surprising strength before going slack. Aki Naruto, hero of the Fourth Shinobi War, Jinchuriki of Kurama, and arguably the greatest ninja to ever live, died on a Tuesday afternoon with cherry blossoms drifting past his window and the faces of his loved ones surrounding him. The village would mourn for weeks. His legend would persist for centuries. Naruto himself expected nothing. Maybe oblivion. Maybe reunion with Hinata, Kurama, and the countless precious people who had preceded him in death. What he didn't expect was the searing pain of rebirth. Fire filled his consciousness, not destructive but transformative. His very essence meant to dissolve and reconstitute within a crucible of cosmic flame. Images flashed through his awareness. Massive scaled wings spanning horizons, mountains crumbling beneath clawed feet, stars birthing and dying within the cup of enormous talons. The memories weren't his, yet they resonated with terrifying familiarity. Then darkness. Blessed, momentary darkness. Naruto awoke screaming in an infant's body, his consciousness fully intact while trapped in helpless flesh. This new world assaulted his senses. Magic saturated everything in a way fundamentally different from chakra. It took years to understand the impossible truth. He had been reborn, memories intact, in a completely different reality. A reality where dragons had once been gods. 27 years later, Ryukin Kagutsuchi, the name this world had given him, stood atop a weathered cliff overlooking the trade road between Milishan and the Beast Country. Shoulder-length blonde hair whipped around a face that carried echoes of his former self, whisker marks replaced by three faint scale-like patterns on each cheek. His eyes remained the same piercing blue, though gold flecks now circled his pupils like tiny solar flares. 3 hours late, he muttered, scanning the horizon for the merchant caravan he'd been hired to protect. Typical. This world, the six-faced world, locals called it, operated by different rules than the elemental nations. Here, mana replaced chakra as the primary magical energy, though Naruto had discovered fascinating parallels between the two systems. His experiences as both an orphan and a Hokage had taught him adaptability, allowing him to carve out a respectable existence as a magical consultant, researcher, and occasional mercenary. All while hiding his true nature. The dreams D started 5 years after his rebirth. Visions of soaring through primordial skies, of speaking existence into being with words of fire, of battling other divine entities across realms of reality. Dream added another fragment to a disturbing mosaic. He wasn't merely Naruto Uzumaki reincarnated. His soul contained something ancient, something divine, a dragon god. The caravan finally appeared on the horizon, and Naruto vaulted from his perch, landing with impossible lightness on the road below. The impact sent a whisper of pain through his left knee, a lingering reminder that even with his extraordinary constitution, this body remained frustratingly human in many ways. "You're late," he called as the lead wagon approached. The merchant captain, a heavy-set man with an impressive an equally impressive collection of protective charms dangling from his neck, offered an unapologetic shrug. Milishan customs. New regulations about beast race goods. Naruto's expression darkened. Again, the treaty specifically addressed trade restrictions. "Treaties are for diplomats and dreamers," the captain replied. "Reality follows coin and prejudice." The caravan consisted of 12 wagons carrying spices, textiles, and enchanted goods between human territories and the Beast Country. Such expeditions increasingly required protection, not just from mundane bandits but from bizarre magical anomalies that had begun plaguing the continent over the past decade. Rifts, scholars called them. Tears in reality where things slipped through from elsewhere. Naruto suspected a connection to his own impossible arrival in this world, though he kept such theories private. "We'll make camp at Riverfork," the captain declared, pointing to a spot on his map. "Should reach it by nightfall if The words died in his throat as Naruto raised a silencing hand, head tilted slightly, nostrils flaring. Years in this world had enhanced his senses beyond human norms, another disturbing manifestation of his draconic essence. Get the wagons in defensive formation, he ordered quietly. Now, the captain paled but didn't argue. In 3 years of hiring Ryukin Kagutsuchi as security, he'd learned to trust those instincts. The attack came 12 minutes later. They emerged from between trees that hadn't been there moments before, trees with bark that pulsed like living flesh, and leaves that whispered in languages no human tongue could pronounce. The entities resembled wolves in the same way nightmares resemble dreams, basic structural similarities twisted into wrongness. Their bodies rippled between states of matter, legs too numerous and too long, eyes glowing with intelligence and malevolent hunger. Rift spawn, Naruto murmured, his fingers already tracing complex magical formations. Everyone inside the barrier. Now, golden light erupted from the ground where he'd been inscribing subtle markings during their conversation. The protection formula, a hybrid of this world's magical theory and principles Naruto remembered from Fuinjutsu, created a dome of energy around the caravan. The wolf things hurled themselves against the barrier, their bodies leaving ears of reality distortion where they touched the magical field. Naruto grimaced, feeling each impact as a drain on his reserves. He could maintain the protection for perhaps 20 minutes, nowhere near enough time for help to arrive. He would need to engage them directly. If the barrier flickers, retreat to the center wagons, he instructed the captain. With practiced motions, Naruto removed his traveling cloak, revealing a body wrapped in combat leathers inscribed with hundreds of intricate magical formulas. At his hip hung an unremarkable short sword, not his preferred weapon, but necessity had forced adaptation. Whispering words that tasted of smoke and starlight, Naruto activated the primary array sewn into his chest piece. Golden light traced the patterns, and power surged through his system, not quite chakra. Not purely mana, but something unique he'd developed through decades of experimentation. His hands came together in a gesture reminiscent of a jutsu seal, though the RGY he channeled followed different pathways. Dragon art. Sovereign step. Reality bent. Between one heartbeat and the next, Naruto vanished from within the protective barrier and reappeared 20 paces outside it. Directly behind the largest of the wolf entities. His blade, now wreathed in flames that burned gold and crimson, swept through the creature's impossible anatomy. The thing screamed, in a voice that cracked the nearby stones. Its body didn't bleed but rather collapsed inward, as though Naruto's enchanted blade had severed the threads binding it to this reality. The remaining creatures turned with unnatural synchronicity, abandoning their assault on the barrier to focus entirely on this new threat. Good, Naruto thought, just as planned. The creatures moved with blistering speed, but Naruto's body responded with the fluid grace born from 2 lifetimes of combat experience. He didn't fight like a swordsman or a traditional mage, his style remained uniquely his own, a hybrid of shinobi tactics and this world's magical principles. Where a swordmaster might have engaged directly, Naruto created openings through misdirection. 3 quick flame sigils erupted into pillars of fire. Not to damage the creatures but to herd them into a prepared formation. His blade wove patterns that left traces of golden light in the air, not just attacks but components of a larger working. 2 creatures dissolved under his calculated strikes. 3 more pressed forward with increasing frenzy. Within the barrier, the caravan guards and merchants watched in awe as one man systematically dismantled enemies that should have required a squad of elite knights. Then everything changed. The air split open like a wound, reality peeling back to reveal a churning maelstrom of color and darkness. From this rift emerged a figure that caused even Naruto to hesitate, humanoid but wrong, its proportions subtly distorted, face hidden beneath a hood that seemed to contain more shadow than should be possible. Dragon child, it hissed in a voice like grinding glass. Fragment of divinity. Naruto's eyes narrowed. In 27 years, nothing in this world had recognized his true nature. Until now, the hooded figure raised skeletal hands, and the remaining wolf entities howled in unison. Their bodies began to distort further, merging into a writhing mass of limbs and fangs and furious intent. The construct bounded toward Naruto with impossible momentum. Time slowed in Naruto's perception. 2 options presented themselves. He could evade, preserving his cover but endangering the sea. Arriving when the monstrosity inevitably redirected toward easier prey, or he could unleash abilities he'd kept hidden for decades. The choice made itself. Dragon art. Primordial flame. Naruto's Saint expanded as he drew breath deep into lungs suddenly capable of impossible capacity. When he exhaled, what emerged wasn't merely fire but the conceptual essence of flame, the original fire from which all lesser flames were mere shadows. Golden white and tinged with blue at its edges, the conflagration engulfed the creature mass entirely. Reality itself seemed to scream as the entity burned. Not just its physical form but the very principles holding it together immolated under flames that predated the concept of burning. In seconds, nothing remained but faintly glowing ash drifting toward an earth that seemed reluctant to accept it. The hooded figure remained, unmoving. "What are you?" Naruto demanded, blade raised defensively. The draconic power he'd unleashed left afterimages swimming across his vision and a taste like molten metal on his tongue. "How do you know what I am?" The figure tilted its head at an angle joints shouldn't permit. "We have always known. We have waited. The barrier's thin, flame bearer. Your awakening accelerates the unraveling." Its voice carried the dispassionate weight of prophecy. "You cannot remain dormant forever. Choose reascension or extinction." Before Naruto could respond, the figure stepped backward into the rift, which sealed with a sound like the universe sighing. The remaining wolf entities collapsed into piles of rapidly decaying matter, leaving behind only the lingering scent of ozone and disturbed earth. Within the protective barrier, wide-eyed merchants stared at their seemingly ordinary protector with new fear and wonder. Naruto cursed silently, decades of careful anonymity potentially undone in moments. He sheathed his blade and dispersed the barrier with a gesture, his mind already calculating explanations that might preserve his secrets. "Advanced combat magic," he stated as the captain approached cautiously. "Specialized application of flame principles. Nothing more." The captain's skeptical expression suggested limited success. But the man nodded regardless. "Whatever you say, Ryukin. Never seen anything like that, but then, that's why we hire you." He glanced nervously at the scorched earth. "Will more come?" "Not today," Naruto replied with more confidence than he felt. "We should move quickly, though. Rifts sometimes leave residual instabilities." As the caravan reorganized for travel, Naruto retreated into troubled thoughts. The hooded figure had recognized him, or rather, had recognized what slumbered within his soul. Worse, it spoke as though Naruto's presence was accelerating some cosmic process. The rifts, the increasing magical anomalies across the continent, were they his fault? Reascension or extinction, the entity had said. Neither option appealed if they meant losing his hard-won humanity. Night had fallen by the time they reached the planned campsite at Riverfork. The location, where three small rivers converged before flowing toward the beast country, had natural defensive advantages and enough open ground for proper camp setup. Under different circumstances, Naruto might have appreciated the strategic value. Tonight, his attention remained fixed on the stars over constellations utterly foreign to those he'd known in his first life. Something about their pattern nagged at his subconscious, like a half-remembered dream. Thinking of home, a voice interrupted. Naruto turned to find the caravan's navigator, an elderly woman with calculating eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, settling beside his campfire. "In a way," he admitted. "Which region are you from originally? Your accent has always been difficult to place." Naruto smiled faintly. "Very far east," he replied, his standard evasion. The navigator didn't seem convinced but didn't press. Instead, she produced a folded document from her sleeve. "Since you saved our lives today, thought you might be interested in this." Picked it up from a contact in Milishan. The parchment contained a sketched map marking locations of reported rift activities across the central continent. Naruto studied it with growing concern. The pattern was expanding, incidents increasing in both frequency and intensity over the past year. "This is comprehensive," he noted. The navigator shrugged. "I collect information. Safer to travel when you know what to avoid." She tapped one region on the map. "Especially interesting incidents here. In the Western Territories. Reports of a beast tribe warrior involved in multiple rift closures. Some calling her Rift Fang, or something equally dramatic." Beast tribe. Naruto's interest sharpened. The various beast races, cat people, dog people, and other animal-human hybrids, often faced discrimination in human lands, making accomplished beast tribe individuals noteworthy. Leopard Clan. From what I gather, Swordswoman supposedly single-handedly closed a major rift near Rakia last month. The navigator paused. Technique descriptions reminded me somewhat of your own methods. Different application, similar principles. Now that was intriguing. In decades of research, Naruto had encountered few who approached magical theory with his innovative perspective. Most practitioners remained firmly entrenched in traditional schools, resistant to hybridization concepts. Does this rift hunter have a name? Ghislaine Dedoldia. Naruto committed the aim to memory as the navigator bid him goodnight. A beast tribe swordswoman closing rifts suggested someone with both physical prowess and magical insight, a rare combination in a world where combat disciplines typically specialized rather than integrated. Perhaps worth investigating. 3 weeks later, Naruto stepped off a river barge onto the weathered docks of Rakia, a frontier town marking the unofficial border between human territories and the beast country. The settlement existed primarily as a trading post, its architecture reflecting an uneasy blend of cultures, human stone buildings alongside wooden structures incorporating beast tribe design elements. Tension permeated the air like the scent before a storm. Recent rift activities had strained already difficult relations between human and beast race populations, with each side harboring suspicions about the other's involvement. The town guard, a mixed force though predominantly human, maintained visible patrols with hands conspicuously near weapon hilts. Naruto navigated the crowded market district, his senses alert to underlying currents of hostility. His appearance, human but with distinctive facial markings, often generated curiosity. Today, however, he noticed increased scrutiny, particularly from uniformed guards. News of his confrontation with the rift entities had spread, then. Unfortunate but not unexpected. Information traveled with surprising speed in this world, especially regarding magical anomalies. A commotion erupted near the central square, shouts and the distinctive ring of drawn steel. Naruto altered course immediately, following sounds of conflict to their source. He arrived to find a scene of barely contained violence. Town guards surrounded a tall female figure, obviously beast tribe from her leopard-like features and distinctive spotted markings. Her muscular frame towered over most humans present, accentuated by minimal armor that revealed both impressive physique and numerous battle scars. A massive sword remained strapped to her back, her hands deliberately kept away from its hilt despite the half-dozen blades pointed in her direction. "I've shown my authorization," the beast woman growled, ears flattened against her skull in obvious irritation. The mayor himself requested assistance with rift manifestations. "Authorization expired yesterday," countered the guard captain, a weasel-faced man whose satisfaction suggested personal rather than professional motivation. "New directive requires daily renewal of beast race travel permits." "That's administrative harassment and you know it," she replied, tail lashing behind her. The captain smirked. "Perhaps, but it's legal harassment. Return tomorrow after proper processing." Naruto assessed the situation with practiced eyes. The guards maintained textbook-threatening positions but left multiple approach vectors uncovered. Amateur work, though potentially deadly to civilians. The beast woman, who matched the script, Ions of Ghislaine Dedoldia, displayed remarkable restraint despite obvious combat capabilities. Her stance revealed advanced martial training, and the casual way she adjusted position to maintain situational awareness impressed him. Interestingly, despite her imposing physical presence, what caught Naruto's attention was the subtle magical emanation surrounding her, untrained but potent, like uncut gemstone waiting for proper faceting. He decided on intervention, though not the direct variety his younger self might have preferred. A whispered word sent a virtually undetectable pulse of magical energy across the square, targeting a merchant stall displaying precarious towers of pottery. The careful working disrupted just enough supporting tension to send several expensive pieces crashing to the ground. As predicted, the distraction drew everyone's attention. Naruto seized the moment to approach from the guard captain's blind spot. "Captain Reeves," he said pleasantly, materializing beside the startled officer. "A moment of your time." The captain's hand jerked toward his weapon before recognition dawned. "Ryukin Kagutsuchi, unexpected to see you in Rakia." Wariness replaced his previous confidence. This doesn't concern you. Actually, it does. Naruto produced an official-looking document bearing the royal seal of Asura Kingdom. I've been contracted to investigate rift activity in this region. This includes coordination with all known rift response specialists. He nodded toward Ghislaine, who watched the exchange with narrowed eyes. Including Sword Hunter Dedoldia. The fabricated title earned a barely perceptible twitch from Ghislaine, though she wisely remained silent. I've received no notification, the captain began. Understandable. The communication system remains overwhelmed. Naruto's tone conveyed sympathetic professionalism while his eyes promised complications if challenged. However, you'll find authorization code Delta 7 on the third page, granting operational priority. The referenced code, a genuine security clearance Naruto had obtained through less than straightforward means years earlier, represented sufficient authority to make verification more trouble than compliance. After a moment's calculation, the captain stepped back with poor grace. 24 hours. Then proper documentation. Naruto offered a respectful nod. That somehow conveyed victory without rubbing it in the man's face. As the guards dispersed, he turned to Ghislaine, who regarded him with undisguised suspicion. I don't know you, she stated flatly. And I've never been called Sword Hunter in my life. Improvisational title, Naruto admitted with a slight smile. Creates artificial familiarity and suggests official status to bureaucratic minds. Her eyes, amber with vertical pupils, narrowed further. Manipulative, effective, he countered, and less destructive than the alternative, which appeared to be heading toward bloodshed. Ghislaine studied him with predatory intensity, nostrils flaring slightly as though categorizing his scent. You're the one they're talking about. From the merchant caravan attack. It wasn't a question. Dragon fire, they called it. Naruto maintained his pleasant expression through practiced discipline. Exaggerated stories. Basic combat magic with theatrical presentation. She clearly didn't believe him. Why involve yourself in my problems? Professional interest, Naruto replied honestly. I specialize in rift-related phenomena. Your methods have generated attention. I close rifts. Simple. Nothing about rifts is simple, Naruto observed. Most academic authorities recommend minimum 4-person teams with complementary specializations. Yet you operate alone, with apparent success. Ghislaine's posture shifted subtly, pride warring with ingrained wariness. Sword God style requires no backup. That single statement contained volumes of information to Naruto's experienced ear. The Sword God style represented one of 3 major sword disciplines in this world, characterized by overwhelming offensive power but typically lacking flexibility when facing non-conventional threats like rift entities. Against conventional opponents, perhaps, he acknowledged. But rift manifestations operate by different principles. Dead is dead, she replied with blunt confidence. Doesn't matter where they come from. Quote, Naruto suppressed a smile. The beast woman's directness reminded him of certain shinobi he'd known in his previous life. Hiba would have approved of her straightforward attitude. Have you encountered entities capable of speech? Humanoid manifestations rather than beast forms? He asked, watching her reaction carefully. Something flickered across Ghislaine's features, recognition. Perhaps concern. 3 days ago, Western Forest. Her eyes narrowed. How did you know? Instead of answering directly, Naruto glanced meaningfully at their surroundings. The town square offered too many ears. Some potentially hostile. I suggest continuing this conversation elsewhere, he proposed. Professional exchange of information. Mutually beneficial. Ghislaine considered him for several heartbeats, her tail movement betraying calculations occurring behind those predatory eyes. The sleeping sword, she finally stated. Tavern at the East End. 1 hour. Without waiting for acknowledgement, she turned and strode away, her powerful frame parting the crowd effortlessly. Naruto watched her departure with professional appreciation. Her movement betrayed no wasted energy. Every muscle working in perfect coordination, natural physical gifts honed through rigorous training. Yet he also noted flaws in her technique. Over-reliance on strength rather than efficiency, defensive blind spots. And subtle magical potential completely untapped. With proper guidance, she might become something extraordinary. The thought triggered an unexpected memory. Jiraiya's face, weathered and wise. Watching a young Naruto attempt Rasengan training. The familiar ache of loss momentarily tightened his chest. 27 years in this new world, and certain wounds remained fresh. Shaking off the melancholy, Naruto headed toward the eastern district. The sleeping sword earned its name from the massive ceremonial blade mounted above its entrance, allegedly belonging to a legendary swordmaster who retired to become an innkeeper generations ago. The establishment's clientele reflected Rakia's demographics, with human merchants sharing space alongside beast tribe traders. Those subtle divisions manifested in seating arrangements. Naruto located Ghislaine at a corner table offering clear sightlines to all entrances and minimal exposure to windows, a professional's choice. 2 untouched mugs of ale suggested she'd arrived early to secure optimal positioning. Paranoid or prepared? He asked, sliding into the seat opposite her. Alive, she countered without humor. Which happens when you prepare for paranoid possibilities. Naruto nodded appreciation for the sentiment. Fair assessment. Why are you really here, Magic Man? Ghislaine demanded, dispensing with preliminaries. And don't repeat that research nonsense. You interfered with law enforcement. That creates complications unless you have actual purpose. Her directness deserved reciprocation. The entity you encountered 3 days ago, it spoke to you about barriers between worlds, possibly mentioned something about awakening or unraveling. Ghislaine's pupils contracted to thin slits. You're well informed for someone who wasn't there. Because I've encountered the same entity, or one very similar, Naruto explained. These aren't random manifestations. There's intelligent direction behind recent rift activities. Quote, he produced the map he'd received from the caravan navigator, now annotated with additional locations and observations. Ghislaine studied it with surprising analytical focus for someone projecting a straightforward warrior persona. The pattern moves inward, she noted, tracing concentric circles of activity with a clawed finger. Spiraling toward this region. She tapped the map's center, where several major ley lines intersected beneath the Burgaros Mountains. Precisely, Naruto confirmed, impressed by her quick analysis. Something is being systematically weakened or prepared. The question is, for what purpose? Ghislaine leaned back, arms crossed over her chest. The position emphasized impressive musculature while maintaining combat readiness, a warrior's relaxation. You think I know something. I think you've seen patterns I haven't, Naruto clarified. Different perspectives reveal different insights. You've closed more rifts than anyone else on record. That creates unique observational opportunities. The compliment, delivered as factual observation rather than flattery, seemed to register positively. Ghislaine's ears tilted forward slightly, a subtle tell of engagement. The entities are changing, she stated after a moment's consideration. Early manifestations were mindless, predatory but simple. Recent encounters show coordination, adaptation. Her expression darkened. They're learning. This aligned with Naruto's own observations, but hearing confirmation from an independent source validated concerns he'd previously dismissed as paranoia. I've documented similar progression, he acknowledged. But you've experienced something specific that concerns you. Something beyond tactical adaptation. Ghislaine's gaze sharpened. Perceptive. Experienced, Naruto corrected. Recognition patterns become apparent after sufficient observation. She studied him silently before apparently reaching a decision. With fluid grace that belied her muscular frame, Ghislaine removed a leather wristband and placed it on the table between them. 3 days ago, the speaking entity wore identical marking. The band contained unfamiliar script burned into the material. Not magical formula as traditionally understood in this world, but something that resonated with Naruto's other knowledge. The symbols bore conceptual similarities to certain forbidden sealing techniques from his original world, though rendered in completely different linguistic framework. More disturbing was the faint resonance he felt from the markings, a whisper of recognition from the dragon essence within him. May I? He asked, hand hovering above the item. Ghislaine nodded permission. When his fingers contacted the leather, Naruto channeled the barest thread of his unique energy into the material. Not enough to trigger visible reaction but sufficient to test response. The symbols absorbed his energy eagerly, like parched earth drinking rain. For an instant, they glowed with subdued golden light before returning to apparent inertness. Interesting. And concerning. Where exactly did you encounter the entity? He asked, carefully returning the wristband. Abandoned shrine. Western forest. Ghislaine reclaimed the item with a thoughtful expression. You made it react. Simple diagnostic technique. Naruto deflected. These markings appear ceremonial, possibly related to whatever ritual purpose drives these incursions. Ghislaine's expression suggested she recognized the evasion but chose not to challenge it directly. The shrine contained similar markings. Freshly carved. That detail elevated concerns from theoretical to immediate. Someone in this world is actively facilitating these incursions, Naruto concluded. Not just responding to random phenomena. My assessment as well. Ghislaine lifted her previously untouched ale and took a substantial swallow. Which brings the relevant question. What's your actual interest? Academic curiosity doesn't typically involve falsified documents and confrontations with local authorities. The question demanded truth, or at least as much truth as Naruto dared reveal. He considered his words carefully. The entities have recognized something in me, he admitted. Something I don't fully understand myself. I need to know why these incursions are happening and what connection they might have to my own circumstances. Ghislaine's eyes narrowed slightly, but she nodded as though his vague explanation confirmed private suspicions. They recognized me too, called me potential vessel and sword bearer. Her expression hardened. I dislike being labeled by enemies. This revelation added another dimension to Naruto's growing theory. The entities weren't just recognizing his dormant dragon essence, they were identifying specific individuals with particular qualities. You mentioned sword god style, he said, shifting approach. Your Tekken IQ is impressive but conventionally applied. Have you considered integrating magical principles into your swordwork? The question clearly surprised her. Sword is sword. Magic is magic. Different disciplines. Artificial distinction. Naruto countered. Energy is energy, whether channeled through steel or formula. Integration creates possibilities beyond either approach individually. Anya's tail swished with what appeared to be irritation, though her expression suggested reluctant interest. Sword masters would disagree. Innovation rarely comes from established orthodoxy, Naruto observed. These entities operate beyond conventional principles. Perhaps defeating them requires similar transcendence. She studied him with renewed intensity. You're proposing something. Collaborative investigation. Naruto confirmed. I possess theoretical knowledge and magical expertise. You have practical experience closing rifts and combat capabilities I lack. Together, we might discover answers neither could find alone. Quote, and if I refuse, then I wish you continued success in your solo efforts, Naruto replied honestly. But I suspect neither of us will live long enough to resolution if we don't adapt faster than our opponents. The tavern had grown more crowded during their conversation, ambient noise providing privacy while simultaneously raising Naruto's situational awareness. 3 individuals near the bar had shown excessive interest in their discussion despite appearing engrossed in their own activities. Ghislaine had noticed too, her posture subtly shift, to allow faster access to her weapon if needed. Your offer involves training, she stated rather than asked. You believe my technique inadequate. I believe your technique impressive but incomplete, Naruto corrected. As is my own understanding of rift dynamics. Mutual improvement serves mutual survival. The distinction seemed important to her pride. Ghislaine considered his words with serious evaluation rather than instinctive rejection. You closed a rift with fire that burned reality itself, she finally said. I've heard descriptions from multiple witnesses. That suggests knowledge worth acquiring. While your ability to maintain sword discipline against entities that distort physical laws demonstrates adaptability I admire, Naruto countered. We have complementary strengths. Their conversation paused as one of the suspicious individuals, a hooded figure of indeterminate gender, rose from the bar and approached their table with deliberate casualness. Naruto tensed imperceptibly, fingers positioned to trace emergency defense formulas if necessary. The figure stopped several paces away, hesitating before apparently reconsidering and changing direction toward the tavern's exit. The moment they departed, Naruto noticed a subtle shift in the establishment's magical ambience, a faint reduction in pressure he hadn't consciously registered until it dissipated. Ghislaine had sensed it too, her nostrils flaring as she processed information beyond human perception. Watched, she murmured, not human scent, not beast tribe either. This conversation should continue elsewhere, Naruto suggested. Preferably while investigating the shrine you mentioned. Ghislaine nodded agreement. Dawn. Western Gate. She rose with fluid grace, towering over most patrons. Don't be late, Magic Man. Ryukin. He offered. My name. She acknowledged this with a slight inclination of her head. Until dawn, Ryukin. After her departure, Naruto remained at the table, say. NSES extended to monitor the tavern's occupants. The remaining suspicious individuals maintained their positions but seemed less focused without their companion. Likely observation rather than immediate threat, though he'd maintain vigilance regardless. His mind processed the conversation's implications. Ghislaine Dedoldia presented fascinating potential, raw talent lacking refined direction, instinctive understanding without theoretical framework. Her physical capabilities exceeded most warriors he'd encountered in this world, while her untapped magical affinity suggested possibilities she herself likely couldn't imagine. Reminiscent of his own early days, before Jiraiya's guidance had transformed natural gifts into disciplined power. Perhaps, Naruto reflected, his unexpected reincarnate ion served greater purpose than mere cosmic accident. Perhaps he'd been given second chance not just to live but to pass on knowledge, to guide another exceptional individual toward their potential, as he himself had once been guided. The thought felt right in ways he couldn't articulate. For the first time in years, anticipation displaced the wariness that had become his constant companion. Dawn couldn't come soon enough. Morning arrived beneath bruised clouds that promised eventual rain. Naruto reached the Western Gate well before sunrise, using the pre-dawn hours to inscribe subtle protective formulas on his equipment. The working required precision, balancing power against visibility to create defenses that wouldn't broadcast their presence to sensitive observers. Ghislaine arrived, exactly as first light breached the horizon, her massive form silhouetted against the dawn sky. She'd added minimal armor since their meeting, reinforced leather pauldrons and greaves that suggested reparation for serious combat rather than casual exploration. Prompt, she noted approvingly. Professional courtesy, Naruto replied. He'd secured a pair of forest-worthy mounts, a practical consideration given the distance involved. Though he noted Ghislaine's skeptical assessment of the beasts. Not fond of horses. Prey animals, she explained with feline disdain. Unreliable when threats appear. These are war-trained. They'll hold position unless specifically endangered. He patted his mount's neck with genuine appreciation. Animals often sense rift disturbances before we can. Useful early warning. Ghislaine accepted this logic with pragmatic grace, mounting her horse with competent if unpolished technique. Her sword, a massive two-handed blade nearly as long as she was tall, remained strapped across her back in a custom harness that allowed drawing even from horseback. They departed Rakia through morning mist, following a weathered trade road before branching onto less traveled hunters' paths. Naruto noted how naturally Ghislaine oriented herself despite minimal landmarks, an innate navigational sense likely enhanced by beast tribe perception abilities. The shrine predates current settlements, she explained as they rode. Local humans avoid it from superstition. Beast tribes from respect for old powers. Yet someone has been using it recently, Naruto observed. Ghislaine nodded grimly. Fresh markings. Recent offerings. Blood magic. That last detail raised Naruto's concern significantly. Blood-based magical systems in this world often connected to ancient practices predating modern magical theory, practices frequently associated with forbidden knowledge and dangerous entities. Were the rift entities summoned deliberately, then? My assessment, she confirmed. Though purpose remains unclear, the entities themselves seem hungry, not controlled. Naruto considered this. Perhaps someone believes they can harness forces they don't truly understand. Wouldn't be the first fools to die from such arrogance, Ghislaine observed without sympathy. Their conversation lapsed into professional silence as the forest thickened around them. Naruto extended his senses cautiously, monitoring for magical disturbances that might indicate active rifts. Nothing immediate registered, though the ambient magical field carried subtle irregularities, sheer effects of significant energy manipulation. After nearly 2 hours of steady travel, they reached a natural clearing where ancient stones formed a rough circle around a central altar. The shrine's original purpose had been obscured by centuries of weathering, though Naruto recognized architectural elements suggesting connection to primal elemental worship rather than modern theological systems. More concerning were the fresh modifications Ghislaine had mentioned. Someone had carved intricate symbols into the altar stone and arranged specific ritual components in precise geometric patterns. Dark stains marred the central stone, evidence of recent sacrificial offerings. 3 days ago, Ghislaine stated, dismounting fluidly. Entity emerged there. She indicated the altar, spoke using human voice but wrong cadence. Unnatural pauses and emphasis. Naruto approached the altar cautiously, senses extended to detect any lingering magical traps or triggers. The symbols carved into He stone resonated uncomfortably with the dragon essence within him, similar to the wristband but more complex, more purposeful. These markings, he noted, fingers hovering just above the stone without touching. They're calling to something specific. Not random incursion points. Ghislaine circled the perimeter with predatory focus, examining the ground with heightened senses. Multiple human scents. At least 5 distinct individuals. Regular visitation pattern. Organized cult activity, Naruto concluded. With specific interest in entities from beyond the rifts. Or specific interest in you, Ghislaine countered. Fixing him with her penetrating gaze. Entity recognized you. Called you. Dragon child, according to your own account. Naruto tensed imperceptibly. Her perception exceeded his initial estimation. I've been investigating rifts for years, he acknowledged carefully. Perhaps they've become aware of my interest. Perhaps, Ghislaine replied, her tone making clear. She didn't accept the evasion but wouldn't press further, yet. Their investigation continued methodically. Naruto documented the ritual components while Ghislaine tracked movement patterns around the shrine. The collaborative process revealed complementary strengths, her physical sensory abilities uncovering details his magical perception missed, while his theoretical knowledge provided context her practical experience lacked. The ritual structure suggests sympathetic principle, Naruto explained, indicating specific components. Creating resonance between dimensions to facilitate crossing. The formula contains deliberate flaws, controlled instability. Creating vulnerability without complete collapse, Ghislaine concluded with surprising insight. Allowing entities through while maintaining separation between worlds. Precisely. Naruto smiled, genuinely impressed. You understand magical theory better than you claimed. Ghislaine's tail swished with what might have been embarrassment. Practical understanding, not academic, often more valuable, Naruto assured her. I've known many scholars who could explain theory perfectly while failing completely in application. Their conversation halted abruptly as both detected a change in the clearing's atmosphere. The ambient magic thickened like air before a thunderstorm, pressure building against senses both physical and arcane. Something comes, Ghislaine stated unnecessarily, hand moving to her sword hilt. Naruto nodded, fingers already tracing defensive formulas. Not a full rift manifestation. More controlled, directed. The disturbance centered on the altar stone, where air began to shimmer and distort. Unlike the violent tear Naruto had witnessed during the caravan attack, this manifestation developed. With purposeful precision, a controlled opening rather than chaotic breach. Within the distortion, a face appeared, similar to the hooded entity Naruto had encountered before, though more defined, more present. Its features remained unsettlingly fluid, as though observed underwater or through heat distortion. Dragon child, it spoke in that same glass-grinding voice. You seek understanding. The entity's attention shifted, and you bring the sword vessel. Fortuitous convergence. Ghislaine had drawn her massive blade, its edge gleaming with faint blue energy, evidence of quality enchantment. Identify yourself, she demanded. The entity's expression might have been amusement, though its features moved in ways facial muscles shouldn't permit. Names hold power you cannot comprehend, vessel. Sufficient to know I am observer and herald. Herald of what? Naruto questioned, maintaining defensive positioning while assessing offensive options. The unmaking and remaking, the entity replied. The barriers between realities thin, dragon child. Your presence accelerates the process, divine essence recognizing divine essence across diminishing separation. You're trying to break through, Naruto stated. These rifts are test points. Probing for weaknesses. Simplistic interpretation of cosmic necessity, the entity countered. The cycle requires completion. 7 divine aspects must reunite for renewal. You carry one such fragment, dormant but awakening. 7 divine aspects. The number triggered recognition in Naruto's dragon memories, fragmentary impressions of seven-tit anic beings separating reality into defined domains during creation's earliest epochs. And the sword vessel? He asked, nodding toward Ghislaine. What role does she play in your cosmic cycle? The entity's attention shifted toward Ghislaine, who maintained unwavering combat readiness despite the clearly supernatural nature of their opponent. Potential conduit for aspect fragment, it explained. Her essence resonates with the blade divine, the severing principle that divides what must be separated. Currently unclaimed but receptive, Ghislaine's expression hardened. I am no one's vessel. Choice remains theoretical at present, the entity acknowledged. The weakening progresses regardless of individual preference. When barriers fully dissolve, divine aspects will seek appropriate vessels. Resistance merely determines survival probability during transition. You're talking about possession, Naruto clarified, anger seeping into his voice. Overriding existing souls with these divine aspects. Oversimplification, the entity corrected. Merger rather than replacement. As you yourself demonstrate, Dragon Child. Your human identity persists alongside awakening divinity. Integration remains possible for compatible vessels. This confirmation of Naruto's nature, spoken so casually before Ghislaine, complicated matters considerably. He glanced toward his companion, expecting shock or accusation. But her expression remained focused on the immediate threat. Convenient explanation for cosmic violation, she stated flatly. Justify invasion through mystical inevitability. The entity's fluid features arranged themselves into something approximating a smile. Vessel selection progresses appropriately. Sword requires discernment. Without warning, the manifestation expanded, energy crackling along the altar's surface. The carved symbols flared with sickly light as the entity solidified further, limbs forming from the distortion, body gaining substance and definition. Demonstration of necessity, it announced, voice stronger now that it had partially materialized. Observe consequence of resistance. Its arm extended impossibly, fingers elongating into blade-like appendages that slashed toward Ghislaine with blinding speed. She reacted with impressive reflexes, her massive sword intercepting the attack with a clash that sent arcane sparks showering across the clearing. The impact should have severed the entity's arm. Instead, its substance flowed around the blade-like viscous liquid before reforming, adaptation happening in real time. Physical Oz hold diminished authority over trans-dimensional entities, it explained with clinical detachment. Conventional weapons provide temporary disruption rather than termination. Naruto seized the penning created by its focus on Ghislaine. Golden light erupted from his hands as he pressed them against the earth, activating a formula he'd been subtly inscribing since their arrival. Barrier art. Domain anchoring. The ground beneath the shrine flared with interconnected symbols extending outward in concentric circles. Each ring contained different formula components, some drawn from this world's magical systems. Others incorporating principles from Naruto's original reality, and a few derived from his emerging understanding of draconic power. The entity hissed as the formula activated, its partially materialized form suddenly constrained by reinforced dimensional boundaries. Clever application, it acknowledged, withdrawing from Ghislaine to assess this new threat. Temporary constraint through reality reinforcement. Explanatory monologuing, Naruto countered dryly. Common error among entities accustomed to intellectual superiority. Ghislaine capitalized on the momentary advantage, her sword describing a perfect arc toward the entity's now anchored form. This time, the blade carried more than physical force, it glowed with concentrated intent. The warriors will focus. Ed through steel with instinctive precision. The entity shrieked as the weapon connected, its substance parting reluctantly beneath the empowered edge. Not full disruption but genuine damage, evidence that proper application of force could indeed affect these beings. Untrained potential, it gasped, withdrawing further. Imagine capabilities with proper awakening. Naruto pressed the advantage, hands moving through complex gestures that channeled his unique energy through the barrier formula. Golden fire, constrained and focused unlike his previous display, erupted around the entity's form. Dragon art, binding flame. The fire didn't burn in conventional sense but rather defined, imposing order and limitation on something inherently chaotic. The entity writhed within the golden constraints, its form compressing toward its dimensional origin point. Inevitable, it insisted even as it diminished. Delay changes nothing. Seven shall return. Reality requires renewal. With a sound like air rushing to fill vacuum, the entity vanished. The barrier formula flared once more before settling into dormancy, its purpose fulfilled for the moment. Silence fell across the clearing. Even natural forest sounds had ceased during the confrontation, though birds gradually resumed cautious calls as the magical disturbance faded. Naruto turned to face Ghislaine, whose expression had shifted from combat focus to evaluative assessment. Her sword remained drawn, though lowered to non-threatening position. "So," she said simply. "Dragon child." Naruto sighed, fatigued from the working catching up with his human limitations. "It's complicated." Apparently, she made no move to attack or retreat, just waited with predatory patience for explanation. "I'm not certain what I am," Naruto admitted. Deciding honesty offered the only viable path forward. "I have memories, knowledge that isn't mine, power that manifests in ways I'm still learning to control." He gestured toward the altar. "These entities recognize something in me that I've spent decades trying to understand myself." Ghislaine considered this, her tail moving in thoughtful patterns. "Your combat application suggests significant experience. More than apparent age would allow. Perceptive indeed. As I said, complicated." She nodded once, accepting the limitation for now. With smooth efficiency, she sheathed her massive blade. "Your barrier technique was effective," she noted. "And my sword affected the entity when properly focused." "Yes," Naruto agreed, relieved by her shift to practical assessment. "You channeled intent through your blade instinctively. With proper training, that capability could be dramatically enhanced." "The training you proposed yesterday." "Precisely." Naruto gestured toward the symbols on the altar. "These incursions will continue, likely escalate. The entities seek vessels for whatever cosmic rebirth they're planning, and they've identified both of us as candidates." "Targeted," Ghislaine summarized grimly. "Yes, which makes cooperation not just beneficial but potentially necessary for survival." She considered this with serious evaluation, ears flicking occasionally as she processed implications. After several moments, she reached a decision with characteristic directness. "Terms," she stated. "I accept sword enhancement training. You receive rift hunting partnership. Equal exchange of knowledge. No deliberate withholding of relevant information." The last condition presented obvious complications given how much Naruto still concealed, but he recognized the practical necessity of her requirement. "Agreed," he replied, with understanding that some information may be unclear even to its possessor. "I'll share what I know, but regarding my nature, there remain significant unknowns." Ghislaine accepted this qualification with a pragmatic nod. "Acceptable limitation." She extended her hand in formal gesture. "Partnership established." Naruto clasped her offered hand, noting the strength in her grip and the calluses earned through years of sword practice. The contact created momentary magical resonance, a brief harmonic between his draconic NCE and whatever potential the entity had identified within her. "Interesting. And potentially significant." "Partnership established," he echoed. As they prepared to depart the shrine, Naruto cast one final glance at the altar stone. The entity had confirmed his suspicions about his own nature while raising disturbing implications about cosmic design. If these 7 divine aspects truly sought reunification, with himself as unwitting catalyst, the possibilities were troubling indeed. But for the first time in decades, Naruto felt something beyond concern. Standing beside the formidable beast warrior whose untapped potential practically radiated to his senses, he felt something he'd nearly forgotten. Purpose. Not merely survival or understanding, but the opportunity to guide exceptional talent toward its fulfillment, just as he himself had once been guided. Ghislaine Dedoldia might indeed become the Sword King these entities had cryptically referenced. And perhaps, in helping forge her destiny, Naruto might finally understand his own. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, The Sword and the Dragon. Dawn broke over the forest clearing, painting ancient stones with amber light. Ghislaine Dedoldia moved through sword forms with methodical precision, her massive blade cutting air with audible whispers. Sweat glistened on her fur despite the morning chill, evidence of hours spent in solitary practice before most would consider the day begun. "Your overhead strike favors power over efficiency," observed Naruto from his cross-legged position atop a weathered boulder. sacrificing recovery speed for impact. Ghislaine's ear twitched, the only indication she'd heard him, as she completed the sequence without interruption. Only when the final form concluded did she lower her sword, and turn toward her newly acquired mentor. Sword God style emphasizes decisive strikes, she explained, amber eyes narrowed against rising sunlight. Single blow, single kill. Effective against opponents who play by conventional rules. Naruto acknowledged, rising with fluid grace. Less so against entities that ignore physical laws entirely. 3 days had passed since their confrontation with the interdimensional entity. 3 days of cautious assessment as teacher and student established boundaries and expectations. They'd established a temporary camp near the ruined shrine, close Ino. To monitor for additional incursions while sufficiently removed to avoid direct exposure to lingering energies. Ghislaine sheathed her blade with practiced efficiency. Your alternative? Naruto approached with measured steps, hands clasped behind his back. Integration rather than replacement. Your sword god foundations remain valuable, we enhance rather than discard. Specific application. Let me demonstrate. Naruto extended his hand. May I? After momentary hesitation, Ghislaine unslung her massive sword and presented it horizontally across her palms. The weapon, nearly as long as she was tall, would have been unwieldy for most humans, yet Naruto accepted it with surprising ease, testing its balance with appreciative expertise. Fine craftsmanship, he noted. North Asura forging, reinforced with secondary enchantments for durability. Perceptive, Ghislaine acknowledged. Prize from my first major contract. Naruto nodded, then assumed a basic sword god stance, feet positioned for stability. Grip firm but not rigid. The posture mimicked Ghislaine's own with subtle but significant differences. Standard form emphasizes power transfer through linear momentum, he explained, demonstrating a conventional downward strike. The blade hummed through air with destructive potential. Effective but predictable, energy follows single pathway. Without apparent transition, Naruto shifted posture slightly. His next strike appeared identical to the untrained eye, but Ghislaine's experienced perception caught crucial differences. Weight distribution had changed, energy flow altered at the millisecond level. Modified approach introduces cyclical energy pattern, Naruto continued. Power follows spiral pathway rather than linear. Impact remains but recovery accelerates. Additionally, his body suddenly emanated subtle golden light that traced complex patterns around his arms and torso. The energy transferred to the blade, which now hummed with heightened resonance. Energy projection extends effective striking range beyond physical steel, he concluded, executing a strike that released visible force several feet beyond the blade's tip. The energy dissipated harmlessly against a nearby tree, leaving a spiral pattern etched into bark. Ghislaine's pupils dilated with predatory interest. Extension technique, similar to water god-style distance manipulation, but different application principle. Precisely. Naruto returned the sword with respectful formality. Each established style contains valuable principles. Their segregation is political rather than practical. Ghislaine accepted her weapon with thoughtful expression. Traditional masters would consider such hybridization heretical. Tradition serves stability during peaceful times, Naruto observed. Returning to his bolder perch. Innovation ensures survival during chaotic ones. She considered this philosophical distinction while testing her weapon's familiar weight. These ties don't follow established combat patterns. Adaptation becomes necessary rather than optional. Now you're thinking like a true master rather than a stylistic adherent, Naruto approved. First principle of genuine mastery. Recognize when rules become limitations. Ghislaine's tail swished with what might have been satisfaction at the assessment. Without prompting, she assumed her practiced stance again, attempting to incorporate the spiral energy concept Naruto had demonstrated. Her first attempts produced mixed results, the ingrained muscle memory of years fighting against new theoretical understanding. Frustration briefly tightened her features before disciplined focus reasserted itself. Visualize energy flow, Naruto suggested. Your body already understands the concept instinctively. Beast tribe physiology naturally incorporates spiral principles in muscle structure. This observation earned a surprised glance. You're familiar with beast tribe anatomy. I've studied many physiological systems. Naruto replied with diplomatic vagueness. Different bodies channel energy through different natural pathways. Beast tribes generally possess enhanced flow dynamics compared to humans. Ghislaine absorbed this information with characteristic pragmatism, applying it immediately to her practice. Her next sequence showed subtle improvement, energy beginning to follow spiral patterns rather than purely linear trajectories. Better, Naruto acknowledged, though full integration will require dedicated practice. Your natural affinity for kinetic manipulation should accelerate progress. This affinity you keep referencing, Ghislaine noted while continuing her practice. Explain specific meaning. Most sword masters discuss strength, speed, coordination. You consistently reference energy dynamics instead. Quote, Naruto considered how best to explain concepts that bridged worlds. Every living being possesses internal energy, what mages call mana, philosophers call life force, and various traditions label differently. This energy manifests uniquely in each individual, creating natural aptitudes. He gestured toward her continuing practice. Your particular energy signature shows unusual resonance with kinetic principles, the forces governing motion and impact. With proper development, this affinity could allow manipulation of force beyond conventional physical limitations. Ghislaine completed her sequence before responding. You suggest I possess magical potential. I state with certainty you possess exceptional magical potential, Naruto corrected. Currently expressed primarily through physical combat excellence, but capable of much broader application. Her ears flattened slightly, skepticism rather than hostility. Beast tribes rarely demonstrate advanced magical aptitude. Human scholars claim inherent limitations in our mana channels. Human scholars perpetuate convenient prejudices that justify existing power structures, Naruto countered with unexpected sharpness. I've encountered this particular fallacy in multiple contexts. It reflects political agenda rather than biological reality. The vehemence in his response caught Ghislaine's attention. She studied him with renewed assessment, tail moving in contemplative patterns. You speak from personal experience, she observed. Not merely theoretical position. Naruto's expression softened slightly. Let's just say I recognize systemic prejudice when I encounter it. Your potential has nothing to do with your heritage and everything to do with your individual essence. This declaration seemed to satisfy something within Ghislaine's assessment. She nodded once, decisive. Demonstrate practical application of this kinetic affinity concept. With pleasure. For the next hour, Naruto guided Ghislaine through exercises designed to access her untapped magical potential. Rather than traditional meditation or formulaic approaches, he focused on physical movements that gradually introduced energy manipulation concepts through familiar sword patterns. Your body already understands the principles, he explained as golden light began manifesting along her blade during particularly successful sequences. We're simply making conscious what has been unconscious. Ghislaine absorbed instruction with remarkable efficiency, her natural combat intelligence translating theoretical concepts into practical application with minimal repetition. By mid-morning, she could consistently produce visible energy extensions during specific strikes, crude compared to Naruto's demonstrations but impressively advanced for initial attempts. Adequate progress, she assessed during a water break, typical understatement masking obvious satisfaction. Exceptional progress, Naruto corrected. Most practitioners require months to achieve conscious energy projection. Your instinctive understanding accelerates the process dramatically. Ghislaine accepted the praise with practical acknowledgement rather than false modesty. Application against actual targets, soon, but controlled progression remains important. Rushing development risks. A distant sound interrupted their conversation. Rhythmic drumming carried through forest air. Ghislaine's ears swiveled toward the source, her expression immediately shifting from student to warrior. Signal drums, she explained, ready moving to gather essential equipment. Beast tribe emergency communication. Northern village under attack. Naruto was on his feet instantly, mentally calculating distances based on sound propagation. Type of threat. Pattern indicates human aggressors. Ghislaine's voice carried professional detachment, though her tail's agitated movement betrayed emotional response. Likely mercenary B, and rather than official military action. How far? Approximately 4 leagues northeast. Red Claw settlement, primarily agricultural community. She secured her sword across her back with practiced efficiency. They maintain trade relations with human merchants. Generally peaceful coexistence. Until now, apparently, Naruto observed grimly. Transportation options. Ghislaine gestured toward barely visible game trails. Fastest approach through forest rather than roads. Terrain difficult for horses but navigable on foot for experienced woodsmen. Or for those with alternative methods, Naruto added cryptically. He extended his hand. With your permission, I can significantly reduce our travel time. Ghislaine hesitated briefly before practical necessity overcame caution. Proceed. Naruto clasped her forearm in warrior's grip, his other hand forming an unfamiliar symbol. Golden light traced complex patterns around them both as he whispered words that tasted of wind and distance. Dragon art. Horizon step. Reality blurred. Ghislaine experienced momentary disorientation as forest surroundings seemed to stretch and compress simultaneously. When clarity returned, they streaked atop a ridgeline overlooking a completely different section of forest, at least 2 leagues from their previous position. She staggered slightly, equilibrium temporarily disrupted. Transportation magic, she observed. Recovering with impressive quickness. Unconventional application. Specialized technique. Naruto confirmed, scanning their surroundings with alert senses. Limited range and preparation requirements. But useful for emergency response. From their elevated position, they could see smoke rising from beyond the next ridge, the unmistakable signature of structures burning. Ghislaine oriented herself with predator's precision, identifying optimal approach vectors with experienced ease. Red Claw Village lies just beyond Northern Ridge, she confirmed. Smoke patterns suggest coordinated incendiary attacks rather than accidental fire spread. Professional operation rather than opportunistic raiding, Naruto concluded. We should expect organized resistance. Ghislaine nodded agreement. Approach strategy. Quote, assessment before engagement, Naruto suggested. Determine force composition, civilian status, and strategic objectives before committing to specific action. Agreed. Ghislaine's pupils had contracted to predatory slits, her entire demeanor shifting toward combat readiness. I know alternate approach route with superior observation advantages. They moved with complementary efficiency, Ghislaine's intimate familiarity with regional terrain matching Naruto's tactical experience. Within 20 minutes, they reached a concealed vantage point overlooking the besieged settlement. Red Claw Village consisted of approximately 40 structures arranged in concentric circles around a central gathering area. The design blended practical defense considerations with beast tribe cultural elements, elevated walkways connecting buildings, communal spaces for shared activities, and distinctive artistic elements incorporated into functional architecture. Currently, that architecture burned. Approximately 20 attackers methodically worked through the settlement, armored figures moving with disciplined coordination that confirmed Naruto's assessment of professional mercenaries rather than random bandits. They wore no identifying insignia but carried quality weapons and maintained tactical formation even while conducting what appeared to be systematic property destruction. Civilians, Naruto asked quietly, scanning for non-combatants. Central Gathering Hall, Ghislaine indicated a larger structure where several armored figures stood guard. Standard protocol during attacks, defensible position with single access point. Naruto nodded, mind already calculating approach vectors and threat assessments. Mercenary quality, mid-tier professionals, Ghislaine assessed. Coordinated but not elite, standard armaments with minimal enchantment. Leader carries higher quality equipment, potential magic user based on staff configuration. Agreed. Naruto had reached similar conclusions. Objectives appear focused on property destruction rather than civilian casualties, suggesting intimidation operation rather than extermination. Political motivation, Ghislaine growled. Vocal quality shifting toward more feral registers despite maintained tactical discipline. Recent trade agreements between Red Claw and Militian merchants bypassed traditional human middlemen. Created economic tensions, so someone hired professionals to send a message, Naruto concluded grimly. Maintain established order or face consequences. Ghislaine's tail lashed with controlled anger. Intervention strategy. Naruto considered options with calculated precision. Their formation indicates standard mercenary protocols. Likely contractually obligated to achieve specific objectives without unnecessary risk. He gestured toward the gathering hall. Civilian containment rather than elimination suggests professional boundaries. Mean. They likely have predetermined withdrawal conditions if resistance exceeds acceptable parameters, Naruto explained. We don't need to defeat every individual, just convince their leadership that on-track completion has become unprofitable. Ghislaine absorbed this assessment with thoughtful consideration. Target leader directly rather than engaging entire force. Precisely. Demonstrate RW helming capability rather than incremental engagement. Naruto pointed toward a figure directing operations from elevated position near the village center. Their commander maintains Overwatch Ion with communication sight lines to all operational groups. Isolate leadership, force reassessment, Ghislaine summarized, already calculating approach vectors. Traditional or modified engagement. The question represented important evolution in their developing relationship, acknowledgement of Naruto's tactical expertise alongside request for operational guidance. Perfect opportunity to apply this morning's training, Naruto suggested. Controlled environment against conventional opponents. Test energy projection principles in practical application without existential threat. Ghislaine nodded, her expression transitioning from anger to focused determination. Approach parameters. I'll create distraction on eastern perimeter, Naruto outlined. Draw security response away from command position. You engage leader directly with demonstration techniques. Objective is psychological impact rather than lethal outcome. The plan's efficiency appealed to Ghislaine's practical nature. Acceptable approach. Time frame. Synchronize for 3 minutes from mark, Naruto decided. Position yourself accordingly. With silent efficiency, Ghislaine disappeared into forest underbrush. Her movement nearly imperceptible despite her impressive size. Naruto allowed himself momentary appreciation for her natural stealth capabilities before focusing on his own assignment. Circling to He settlement's eastern edge required careful navigation around mercenary perimeter guards, but Naruto's decades of experience made such movement practically automatic. He positioned himself within ricking distance of an isolated two-person security element maintaining watch on potential approach vectors. Barrier art. Whisper domain, he murmured, fingers tracing subtle patterns that released gentle golden light. The energy expanded outward in invisible waves, creating localized field that would contain sound within specific boundaries. With privacy ensured, Naruto produced small metal cylinder from his equipment pouch. The device, his own invention combining magical principles with mechanical engineering, contained pressurized alchemical compounds designed for controlled release. With precise adjustment to release valve, he activated the mechanism before launching it toward unoccupied building near settlement edge. The timing worked perfectly. As the cylinder arced through air, Naruto's mental countdown reached 0, the moment Ghislaine would begin her approach toward the mercenary commander. The device detonated with impressive effect, not harmful explosion but overwhelming sensory disruption. Blinding light erupted alongside thunderous sound, while alchemical components created billowing smoke with distinctive chemical signatures designed to trigger specific responses. To mercenary sentries, the effect unmistakably resembled military-grade attack preparations. Their response followed predictable protocols, immediate alert signals followed by defensive repositioning toward perceived threat. Exactly as intended, Naruto reinforced the deception by triggering secondary devices at calculated intervals, creating impression of coordinated military force preparing methodical assault. Mercenary response followed professional doctrine, units consolidating toward threatened sector while maintaining communication with command elements. From his position, Naruto could observe Ghislaine's approach taking advantage of the created diversion. She moved with impressive speed through newly created security gaps, her massive frame displaying surprising stealth capabilities during approach phase. Upon reaching optimal position, she abandoned stealth entirely in favor of overwhelming presence. Emerging directly behind the mercenary commander's position, Ghislaine ed herself not with words but with unmistakable killing intent that radiated from her powerful frame like physical force. The commander, a middle-aged human with battle-scarred features suggesting extensive combat experience, sensed the threat with veteran's instinct. He turned with impressive speed, staff already rising to defensive position as he registered the massive beast tribe warrior sudden occupying his supposedly secured position. Ghislaine allowed him just enough time to recognize his tactical situation before initiating demonstration. Her blade cleared its sheath with fluid precision. the motion incorporating morning's training principles. As steel cut air, golden energy manifested along its edge, visible representation of kinetic principles harnessed through focused intent. He commander's eyes widened with appropriate alarm. Few mercenaries encountered beast tribe practitioners capable of advanced magical application, particularly incorporated directly into combat techniques. The display deliberately challenged conventional assessment of beast tribe capabilities, exactly as Naruto had intended. Signal withdrawal, Ghislaine stated, her voice pitched to carry appropriate authority. Or demonstrate whether your contract includes death benefits. To emphasize her point, she executed modified sword god technique, not striking directly but releasing controlled energy. Projection that impacted stone wall behind the commander. The surface cracked in distinctive spiral pattern, material integrity compromised at fundamental level rather than through mere physical force. The commander, evidently possessed of appropriate survival instinct, assessed changing tactical parameters with professional calculation. His gaze shifted between approaching subordinates, Ghislaine's imposing presence, and the structural damage demonstrating capabilities beyond conventional threat assessment. Stand down, he ordered, voice carrying command presence despite compromised position. Perimeter units disengage and rally at extraction point. Ghislaine maintained unwavering combat readiness. Withdrawal includes all personnel, immediate cessation of property destruction, and release of contained civilians. The commander's expression revealed momentary calculation before practical assessment prevailed. Acceptable terms given circumstances. Contract completion compromised by unexpected variables. With controlled movements that acknowledged his vulnerable position, the commander produced signal whistle and executed specific pattern. The sound carried across the settlement, triggering immediate response from all mercenary units, disengagement from current activities and disciplined movement toward predetermined extraction locations. Naruto observed the process from his position with professional appreciation. The mercenaries maintained commendable discipline despite unexpected complication, withdrawing in tactically sound formation that balanced speed against vulnerability. Within minutes, the attackers had vacated the settlement entirely, leaving behind burning structures but, notably, no casualties among the civilian population. A professionally executed effort that minimized additional losses while preserving future operational capability. Once satisfied the withdrawal was genuine rather than tactical repositioning, Naruto emerged from concealment and approached Ghislaine's position. Together they supervised the release of civilians from the gathering hall, organizing immediate fire suppression efforts to minimize additional property damage. The Red Claw villagers, primarily leopard tribe like Ghislaine herself, though with different clan markings, responded to the crisis with admirable community coordination. Fire-fighting teams deployed practiced efficiency while medical specialists attended to minor injuries sustained during the initial attack. Organized response suggests previous experience, Naruto observed as they assisted an elderly villager from smoke-damaged building. Third attack this season, confirmed a heavily muscled leopard male who appeared to hold leadership position within the community. First using prophase, seasonal mercenaries rather than opportunistic bandits. Escalation indicates coordinated campaign rather than isolated incidents, Naruto noted, helping establish triage area for smoke inhalation cases. The village leader, who introduced himself as Carrick Redclaw, nodded grimly. Recent trade agreements with Militian merchants bypassed traditional human intermediaries. Created economic advantage for both parties but threatened established interests. Who specifically? Ghislaine asked while assisting water distribution efforts. Consortium called Veritas Trading Group, Carrick explained. They've controlled beast tribe goods distribution in northern territories for generations. Our direct arrangements with independent Militian merchants threatened their monopoly. Legal response would involve contract challenges through established tribunals, Naruto observed. Escalating immediately to physical intimidation suggests political protection beyond normal commercial competition. Veritas maintains close relationships with regional governors, Carrick confirmed. Their principal shareholders include several aristocratic families with military connections. The conversation ousted as they assisted with immediate crisis management. Naruto's medical knowledge proved unexpectedly valuable, his treatment recommendations for smoke exposure demonstrating familiarity with beast tribe physiology that earned appreciative notice from tribal healers. Once immediate emergencies stabilized, Carrick invited them to central gathering space where community leadership had assembled to assess damage and plan recovery efforts. The meeting area, partially damaged but structurally sound, featured traditional Beast Tribe Council configuration with circular seating and central fire pit representing community heart. Your timely intervention prevented greater tragedy, Carrick acknowledged, offering traditional Beast Tribe gesture of respect. The Red Claw stands in your debt. No Deb. T exists between those who stand against injustice, Ghislaine responded with formal phrase that suggested cultural significance beyond literal meaning. The exchange carried nuanced implications that clearly resonated with assembled community members. Several elders nodded with approval while younger members studied Ghislaine with expressions ranging from curiosity to admiration. Nevertheless, we offer hospitality and assistance according to ancient ways, Carrick continued. Our resources remain limited after attack, but what we have is shared freely with those who demonstrated themselves as friends. Naruto recognized the formal exchange as something beyond mere politeness, ritual statements carrying cultural weight and establishing specific relationship parameters within Beast Tribe social frameworks. We accept your hospitality with respect for its value, he responded, carefully choosing words that acknowledge the offer's significance without presumption. His appropriate resp. Once earned appreciative murmurs from gathered elders, suggesting successful navigation of cultural protocol despite his obvious outsider status. Ghislaine's subtle ear movement indicated approval of his handling of the exchange. As recovery efforts continued throughout afternoon, Naruto and Ghislaine assisted where their particular skills proved useful. The experience provided valuable insight into Beast Tribe communal structure, revealing sophisticated social organization that contradicted common human stereotypes portraying them as primitive or tribal in pejorative sense. By evening, immediate crises had been addressed, though significant reconstruction would require sustained effort over coming weeks. The community gathered for shared meal that, despite limited resources, demonstrated remarkable generosity toward their unexpected guests. During the meal, conversation naturally turned toward broader implications of recent events. The attack represented escalation in ongoing tensions between traditional power structures and emerging economic relationships, potentially signaling wider conflict rather than isolated incident. Similar patterns have emerged across northern territories, noted an elderly female elder whose elaborate facial markings suggested significant status within community hierarchy. Beast Tribe communities establishing direct trade relationships face systematic intimidation from entities protecting human intermediary interests. The pattern extends beyond simple economic competition, Naruto observed. Timing and methodology suggest coordinated campaign rather than independent actions. You imply political motivation rather than commercial response, Carrick concluded. Commercial disputes typically escalate through predictable patterns, Naruto explained. Legal challenges, market manipulation, supply chain interference, gradually increasing pressure while maintaining deniability. Jumping directly to paramilitary action suggests different objectives. What objectives specifically? Asked a younger council member. Maintaining established social hierarchies, Naruto replied. Direct trade relationships create economic independence. Economic independence enables political autonomy. Political autonomy challenges fundamental power structures. The assessment generated thoughtful silence among gathered leaders. Its implications extend far beyond immediate property damage or commercial competition, suggesting their community had unknowingly positioned itself within larger socio-political conflict. The question becomes whether DCLAW stands alone or represents component in emerging pattern, Ghislaine noted, her tactical mind analyzing strategic implications. Isolated communities facing coordinated opposition rarely prevail without broader alliance structures. We've established communication with neighboring settlements experiencing similar challenges, Carrick acknowledged. Though formal alliance remains complicated by historical clan rivalries and territorial considerations, traditional divisions serving external interests, Naruto observed. Convenient fragmentation that prevents effective unified response. The observation carried uncomfortable truth that generated visible reactions among council members. Historical Beast Tribe clan structures, originally evolved for ecological and cultural reasons, had been effectively exploited by human political entities to maintain control through division. Their discussion continued well into evening, exploring implications and potential responses to changing circumstances. Throughout the exchange, Naruto noted Ghislaine's increasing engagement with strategic considerations, her natural tactical intelligence expanding beyond immediate combat applications toward broader political awareness. As night settled over the recovering community, they were offered accommodation within one of the undamaged communal structures. The space, designed for visiting clan members during seasonal gatherings, reflected Beast Tribe architectural principles, with elevated sleeping platforms, excellent ventilation, and subtle integration of natural materials into functional design. Your handling of council protocols demonstrated unexpected familiarity with Beast Tribe customs, Ghislaine noted as they settled into the provided space. Surprising knowledge for human practitioner. I've studied many cultural systems, Naruto replied with diplomatic vagueness that had become his standard response to such observations. Understanding diverse perspectives enhances problem-solving capabilities. Ghislaine accepted this explanation with characteristic pragmatism, though her expression suggested continued assessment rather than complete satisfaction. Your combat application this afternoon showed excellent progress, Naruto observed, changing subject toward professional assessment. Energy projection maintained consistency throughout execution despite stressful circumstances. Practical application accelerated understanding, Ghislaine acknowledged. Combat reality crystallizes theoretical concepts more effectively than isolated practice. Precisely why I suggested the direct approach rather than peripheral engagement, Naruto explained. Controlled pressure against conventional opponents provided ideal learning conditions. Ghislaine nodded agreement, then asked with unexpected directness, how extensive is your familiarity with Beast Tribe physiology? The medical recommendations you provided demonstrated specialized knowledge beyond general practitioner level. The question represented continuation of her earlier assessment rather than random inquiry. Naruto recognized the pattern, Ghislaine systematically accumulating observations that challenged his deliberately vague background explanations. I've had opportunity to study comparative physiological systems across multiple species, he replied carefully. Different metabolic reactions to toxins, varying healing parameters, specialized sensory adaptations, all fascinating subjects with practical applications. Academic interest rather than personal experience, Ghislaine suggested, tone indicating she recognized the evasion but chose not to press further, for now. Among other motivations, Naruto acknowledged with slight smile, knowledge serves multiple purposes simultaneously. Their conversation might have continued along this delicate investigative path had fate not intervened in unexpected form. A soft knock at their accommodation entrance preceded the appearance of a younger female leopard tribe member, perhaps 16 by human equivalent aging, bearing additional bedding materials and refreshments. The council thought you might appreciate additional comforts after your journey, she explained with formal politeness that didn't quite mask obvious curiosity about the visitors. Thoughtful consideration, Naruto acknowledged with appropriate gratitude. Please convey our appreciation. The young woman nodded, but lingered with barely concealed interest. Her attention focused particularly on Ghislaine, studying the warrior with intensity that suggested something beyond casual curiosity. You're Ghislaine Dedoldia, she finally stated, apparently gathering courage for direct address. The one they call Fang of the Northern Forest. Ghislaine's R twitched with what might have been embarrassment. Some use that designation. Unnecessarily dramatic terminology. My cousin Rinia speaks of your accomplishments, the young woman continued, enthusiasm overcoming formal restraint. She studies at Central Academy in Milishan, specializes in divinatory applications and theoretical conjunctions. This information visibly impacted Ghislaine, who, typically stoic expression shifted toward something resembling familial pride. Rinia achieved academic placement. When did this occur? Spring admission cycle, the younger woman explained. Ned scholarship through competitive examination process. First Beast Tribe student accepted to advanced theoretical division in 17 years. Unexpected development, Ghislaine murmured, genuine surprise evident in her voice. Last correspondence mentioned divination apprenticeship with wandering practitioner. Academic ambitions went unmentioned. She returns next week for seasonal observation period, their visitor added. Required component of academic curriculum, practical application in traditional contexts. This news clearly registered as significant to Ghislaine, though she maintained outward composure. Appreciate the information. Unexpected but welcome intelligence. After delivering her message and satisfying immediate curiosity about the visitors, the young woman depart. Ed with traditional beast tribe farewell gesture. Her departure left momentary silence as Ghislaine processed the unexpected personal information. Family member. Naruto inquired with careful neutrality. Cousin's daughter. Ghislaine confirmed. Though, Kusin represents simplified translation of specific kinship designation within clan structure. She hesitated briefly before adding, Rinia. Demonstrated exceptional intellectual capabilities from early development stages. Surprising to learn of academic placement, though consistent with observed potential. The comment revealed more than, perhaps intended, glimpse beneath Ghislaine's professional exterior toward personal connections and family relationships rarely referenced in their previous interactions. The Central Academy Maintai, NS notoriously restrictive admission standards, Naruto observed. Particularly for non-human applicants, earning placement represents significant achievement. Ghislaine nodded, unusual expressive N.S.S. briefly transforming her typically stoic features. Rinia always demonstrated unusual persistence regarding intellectual objectives. Barriers tended to intensify rather than discourage her determination. Sounds like another Dedoldia I've encountered, Naruto noted with slight smile. The comment earned brief flash of fangs that constituted Ghislaine's version of appreciative grin. Family characteristic, useful trait for survival in challenging environments. Their conversation continued more casually as evening deepened, the unexpected personal connection creating subtle shift in their professional dynamic. Ghislaine revealed additional context regarding Beast Tribe educational challenges, explaining systematic barriers preventing most talented youngsters from accessing advanced training despite obvious capabilities. Institutional structures maintain convenient narratives about inherent limitations, she explained with matter-of-fact assessment rather than emotional response. Scientific justification for political suppression. A pattern repeated across multiple contexts, Naruto observed. Power structures require validation frameworks to maintain artificial hierarchies. You speak from historical knowledge or personal experience? Ghislaine inquired, returning to her earlier line of investigation. Naruto considered his response carefully. Their developing partnership required trust. Yet full disclosure remained impossible without creating more questions than answers. Both, he finally acknowledged. I've witnessed similar patterns in various contexts. The specifics change while fundamental dynamics remain consistent. Ghislaine studied him with that predatory assessment that seemed to perceive more than his words conveyed. After moments' consideration, she nodded once, accepting the limited disclosure while clearly filing the information within her ongoing evaluation. Rest is advisable, she suggested, practical considerations superseding philosophical exploration. Tomorrow likely requires further community assistance before resuming training regimen. Naruto agreed with the assessment, though his mind continued processing multiple strategic considerations even as they settled into the provided accommodations. The mercenary attack represented potentially significant development beyond its immediate impact, suggesting coordinated opposition to emerging Beast Tribe economic independence that might intersect with their primary investigation regarding interdimensional incursions. Whether connection existed between these seemingly separate situations remained unclear. But Naruto's extensive experience with complex conspiracies had taught him to recognize potentially meaningful patterns within apparently unrelated events. Sleep came with practiced efficiency despite these concerns, another skill developed across 2 lifetimes of crisis management. His last conscious thought acknowledged unexpected satisfaction in witnessing Ghislaine's technical progress alongside her growing strategic awareness. The student showed remarkable promise. The teacher felt renewed purpose. Morning brought renewed activity as the Red Claw immunity continued recovery efforts with impressive efficiency. Naruto and Ghislaine contributed according to their respective capabilities, her physical strength proving valuable for structural stabilization while his unexpected medical knowledge assisted treatment of lingering respiratory issues among affected villagers. By midday, they prepared to depart despite generous invitations to extend their stay. The settlement had stabilized sufficiently for self-management, while their primary mission regarding interdimensional threats required continued attention. Your assistance altered potential outcomes significantly. Carrick acknowledged during formal farewell ceremony. Redclaw acknowledges debt beyond conventional obligation. No debt exists where mutual interest aligns, Naruto responded, demonstrating continued familiarity with appropriate protocols. Though information exchange serves both parties, this culturally appropriate request for intelligence sharing received immediate positive response. Carrick provided detailed report regarding regional developments, patterns of similar attacks against beast tribe settlements, movements of unusual mercenary groups, and political developments affecting interspecies relations. Reports from southern territories describe unusual natural phenomena, he added as they concluded information exchange. Atmospheric disturbances, unexplained wildlife migrations, localized magnetic anomalies affecting navigation instruments. Naruto and Ghislaine exchanged meaningful glances, recognizing potential connections to their primary investigation. Location specifics. Naruto inquired with casual tone that masked significant interest. Concentrated along southwestern mountain range, Carrick explained, producing regional map with marked locations. Particularly focused near ancient shrine complexes predating current settlement patterns. The information aligned disturbingly well with patterns they'd already documented regarding dimensional incursions. The correspondence suggested coordinated activity rather than random manifestations, further evidence supporting their theory regarding deliberate manipulation rather than natural phenomena. After completing necessary farewell protocols, they departed northward along forest paths that would eventually connect with main trade routes. Their apparent direction deliberately mismatched their actual destination, basic security practice when potentially under observation. Once sufficient distance separated them from settlement, Ghislaine initiated conversation that had Clea RLY occupied her thoughts during departure procedures. The atmospheric anomalies Carrick described matched documented precursors to rift manifestations, she observed, suggesting imminent incursion potential rather than theoretical concern. Quote, agreed, Naruto confirmed. The southwestern concentration corresponds with historical significance patterns we've documented previously, particularly concerning given regional population density. Quote, tactical assessment suggests proactive response rather than reactive positioning, Ghislaine concluded, her strategic thinking continuing to develop beyond immediate combat applications. Also agreed, Naruto approved. Though specific approach requires careful consideration. Direct confrontation proved effective against isolated entities but may prove inadequate against coordinated manifestation. They continued discussing strategic options while maintaining steady pace through forest terrain. After establishing sufficient separation from their publicly known position, they adjusted course toward southwestern territories, their actual destination based on newly acquired intelligence. The journey would require several days' travel through varied territories, providing opportunity for continued training alongside investigative activities. Naruto outlined comprehensive development program that would build upon Ghislaine's demonstrated capabilities while systematically addressing identified limitations. Your natural affinity for kinetic manipulation provides foundation for advanced applications, he explained as they traveled. However, sustainable progress requires fundamental understanding rather than technique accumulation. Theoretical framework rather than isolated methodology, Ghislaine summarized with characteristic efficiency. Precisely. The distinction between practitioner and master often lies not in quantity of techniques but in fundamental comprehension of underlying principles. This philosophical approach represented significant departure from traditional sword school methodologies, which typically emphasized technique acquisition through repetitive practice rather than conceptual understanding. Ghislaine's willingness to consider alternative pedagogical approaches demonstrated intellectual flexibility that contradicted beast tribe stereotypes regarding rigid traditionalism. Their journey continued rough afternoon and early evening before establishing camp in defensible location near small stream. The site offered tactical advantages while providing necessary resources for comfortable overnight positioning, another example of their complementary skills creating efficient partnership. After establishing appropriate security measures, they resumed training activities, now expanded beyond Mornin's sword techniques to include fundamental energy manipulation exercises. Naruto guided Ghislaine through progressive sequences designed to develop conscious control over previously instinctive capabilities. Conventional magical training begins with external manipulation, he explained as Ghislaine attempted to influence small flame without physical contact. Our approach prioritizes internal understanding before external application. Different foundational principle, she acknowledged, maintaining focused concentration on the exercise despite obvious difficulty. Traditional methodology separate physical discipline from magical development. Your approach integrates simultaneously. Artificial separation creates unnecessary limitations, Naruto confirmed. The most effective practitioners develop unified energy expression rather than compartmentalized capabilities. Their practice continued until darkness necessitated conclusion. Though progress remained incremental rather than dramatic, Ghislaine demonstrated consistent improvement throughout the session, her natural determination complementing inherent aptitude to overcome initial difficulties. As they prepared evening meal from supplied provisions, conversation turned toward cultural contexts underlying their developing techniques. Beast tribe traditions include energy manipulation principles similar to your methodologies, Ghislaine noted while preparing cooking fire. Though typically expressed through ceremonial applications rather than combat techniques, the distinction often reflects political necessity rather than inherent limitation. Naruto observed, when dominant cultures restrict martial development, subordinated groups often preserve knowledge through ceremonial or artistic expressions. This assessment clearly resonated with Ghislaine's own understanding. Traditional dance sequences contain movements identical to advanced combat forms. Historical preservation disguised as cultural performance. A pattern repeated across many contexts, Naruto acknowledged, thoughts momentarily drifting toward his original world, where certain civilian arts had similarly preserved forbidden techniques during periods of political oppression. Their conversation continued through evening meal, exploring connections between Beast tribe cultural traditions and potential combat applications. Ghislaine demonstrated surprising knowledge regarding historical contexts, her understanding extending beyond practical applications into philosophical foundations underlying different approaches. Your historical knowledge exceeds typical warrior training, Naruto observed as they concluded their meal, suggesting deliberate study beyond combat specialization. Ghislaine's ear twitched in awe. He'd come to recognize as mild embarrassment at personal observation. Childhood circumstances created unusual educational opportunities. Remote clan settlement maintained traditional knowledge archive. Winter isolation provided extensive reading opportunity. This glimpse into her background offered valuable context regarding her exceptional capabilities. Unlike many warriors who developed Naruto specialization through purely practical training, Ghislaine had apparently constructed intellectual framework alongside physical development, creating foundation for the comprehensive understanding Naruto sought to cultivate. Their evening concluded with meditation exercises designed to integrate day's training into established neural patterns. The practice, familiar to Naruto from his original world yet uncommon in current context, initially generated skepticism from Ghislaine before demonstrating tangible benefits through improved energy circulation and accelerated recovery. Morning arrived with characteristic efficiency, both practitioners awakening pre-dawn for individual practice routines before combining efforts for collaborative training. Their developing rhythm demonstrated growing partnership beyond mere teacher-student dynamic, evolving toward genuine collaborative relationship wherein each contributed distinct expertise toward shared objectives. As they prepared to continue their journey, unexpected interruption materialized from surrounding forest. Subtle movement among undergrowth preceded emergence of two Beast tribe individuals, one male, one female, wearing distinct markings identifying them as Nightshade clan rather than Redclaw affiliation. Sword Hunter Dedoldia, the male addressed Ghislaine with formal designation they'd heard previously. Your presence is requested by Elder Council at Moonwater Gathering. Ghislaine's expression registered recognition followed by calculation. Unexpected summons. Timing suggests urgency rather than scheduled deliberation. Matters of significant importance have emerged requiring experienced assessment, the messenger confirmed without specific elaboration. Particularly regarding recent dimensional disturbances affecting multiple territories. This reference to their primary investigation naturally captured Naruto's attention, though he maintained neutral expression while allowing Ghislaine to manage interaction with her cultural counterparts. Current obligations involve related investigation alongside specialist consultant, she responded, gesturing toward Naruto with appropriate formal indication. Attendance possible only with companion inclusion. The messengers exchanged brief glances that communicated unspoken assessment before the female responded. Outside participation in Council proceedings represents significant deviation from traditional protocols. However, current circumstances involve unusual factors potentially justifying exceptional consideration. My associate possesses specialized knowledge directly relevant to Council concerns, Ghislaine stated with formal certainty that brooked no contradiction. His inclusion represents practical necessity rather than preferential request. After brief consultation conducted through subtle gestural language Naruto found fascinating but couldn't fully interpret, the messengers reached apparent consensus. Conditional accept. Chance subject to Council approval upon arrival, the male announced with formal precision. Journey requires 3 days through traditional pathways. Departure availability. Immediate, Ghislaine confirmed after brief glance toward Naruto, who nodded agreement. Their planned investigation could incorporate this unexpected development without compromising primary objectives, particularly given potential information value from Beast Tribe Leadership Council. Within minutes, they had adjusted equipment for changed travel requirements and joined the messengers on forest path leading deeper into traditional Beast Tribe territories rarely visited by human travelers. The development represented potentially significant opportunity to gather intelligence regarding regional dimensional distribution (CES) while establishing valuable connections within Beast Tribe political structures. As they traveled, Naruto observed the messengers with professional interest. Their movement through forest demonstrated lifetime familiarity with terrain, efficient pathfinding that prioritized concealment alongside speed, suggesting military training beyond simple messenger duties. Specialized security detail rather than conventional couriers. He noted quietly to Ghislaine during brief rest period. She nodded confirmation. Elite reconnaissance unit typically assigned to border protection rather than communication duties. Their deployment indicates situation significance beyond normal diplomatic communications. This assessment elevated the invitation's importance beyond initial evaluation. Elite personnel deployment suggested critical situations rather than routine council deliberations, potentially offering valuable intelligence regarding their primary investigation. The journey proceeded efficiently, their guides maintaining impressive pace through challenging terrain while selecting routes optimized for security rather than convenience. By evening, they had covered significant distance along paths that appeared unmarked to conventional observation yet clearly followed established patterns recognizable to those with appropriate knowledge. Their overnight camp demonstrated similar efficiency, location selected for defensive advantages while minimizing environmental impact that might betray their presence to potential observers. The messengers maintained professional courtesy while establishing clear operational boundaries, creating comfortable separation without obvious hostility. During evening meal, prepared with practiced coordination suggesting frequent field deployments, the female messenger initiated cautious conversation beyond operational necessities. Your reputation precedes you, Sword Hunter, she noted with professional respect. Reports from Northern Territories describe impressive capabilities against unconventional threats. Exaggerated accounts, Ghislaine responded with characteristic modesty regarding personal accomplishments. Practical application established techniques against identified threats. Nevertheless, your successes against dimensional entities have generated significant attention among leadership councils, the messenger continued. Particularly given conventional FOSS's limited effectiveness against similar manifestations. The conversation provided valuable context regarding the unexpected invitation. Evidently, Gislaine's activities closing rifts had attracted official notice beyond regional awareness, elevating her status within Beast Tribe political hierarchies despite her apparent disconnection from formal power structures. More intriguing was the implied information regarding wider threat assessment, suggesting Beast Tribe territories experienced similar dimensional incursions requiring coordinated response rather than isolated incidents. This pattern matched their developing theory regarding systematic campaign rather than random phenomena. As conversation continued, Naruto maintained observational position while gathering valuable intelligence through careful attention to contextual references and implied knowledge. The messengers, while professionally discreet, nevertheless revealed significant information through casual references to affected locations, response protocols, and leadership concerns. By morning, their understanding of regional situation had expanded considerably through this indirect intelligence gathering. The dimensional disturbances apparently affected beast tribe territories with increasing frequency and intensity, similar to patterns documented in human regions but different manifestation characteristics suggesting targeted approach rather than uniform implementation. Their journey resumed with dawn, following progressively less traveled routes as they penetrated deeper into traditional territories rarely accessed by outsiders. The landscape gradually shifted from conventional forest ecology toward more distinctive ecosystem reflecting generations of Saint tribe land management, subtle modifications enhancing natural productivity while maintaining environmental balance. By midday, they encountered first evidence of permanent settlements, not conventional villages but integrated habitation systems incorporating natural features into living spaces. Unlike human architectural approaches that imposed structure upon environment, beast tribe designs were kept within existing ecological frameworks to create harmonious integration rather than dominant alteration. Nightshade traditional territories, Ghislaine explained quietly as they traveled. Specialized forest management practices developed over centuries. Sustainable harvesting systems supporting larger population than apparent through conventional observation. The explanation provided BLE context regarding beast tribe sustainability practices. Sophisticated environmental management frequently mischaracterized as primitive or underdeveloped by human scholars unfamiliar with underlying philosophical approaches prioritizing integration over domination. As they traveled deeper into these managed territories, Naruto observed increasing evidence of sophisticated social organization contradicting common stereotypes. Integrated agricultural systems, specialized craft production areas, and complex water management structures demonstrated advanced technological understanding applied through different cultural framework than human civilization metrics traditionally recognized. Their guides maintained professional efficiency throughout the journey, though subtle shifts in their demeanor suggested approaching significant location. By late afternoon, the path widened noticeably before opening into broader valley containing the most distinctive beast tribe settlement Naruto had yet encountered. Moonwater Gathering represented regional hub rather than simple village, a complex community integrating multiple clan affiliations within cooperative framework while maintaining distinctive cultural identities. Unlike human cities organized through hierarchical structures, the settlement followed organic development patterns reflecting natural social relationships rather than imposed organizational systems. Architecture demonstrated similar principles, structures incorporating living plants alongside conventional building materials, elevated pathways connecting distinct neighborhoods. Communal spaces designed for specific social functions while accommodating multiple simultaneous activities. Their arrival generated noticeable attention from community members, particularly Naruto's presence as obvious outsider within traditional space. However, their escort's formal status ensured respectful reception rather than challenging response despite his unusual inclusion. They were guided directly to central community area where several distinctive structures indicated administrative functions within beast tribe governance systems. The largest building, constructed around massive living tree rather than replacing it, evidently served as council gathering location based on ceremonial elements and symbolic designations. The Elder Council will convene at moonrise, their female guide explained with formal precision. Until then, appropriate accommodations have been prepared for rest and preparation. Ghislaine acknowledged this information with traditional gesture as Naruto had learned indicated formal acceptance of hospitality obligations. They were subsequently escorted to designated guest quarters, comfortable accommodations designed specifically for visiting dignitaries from other clans rather than improvised arrangements. Once established in their assigned space with appropriate privacy assured, Ghislaine provided additional context regarding their situation. Moonwater Gathering represents neutral territory where multiple clans conduct cooperative governance, she explained. The Elder Council includes representatives from major beast tribe affiliations rather than single clan leadership. Their involvement suggests situation affects multiple territories rather than isolated incidents. The messengers' security classification implied similar assessment, Naruto observed. Elite personnel deployment indicates critical evaluation rather than routine consultation. Ghislaine nodded agreement, particularly significant given traditional rel. Uctance regarding outside involvement in internal matters. Your inclusion represents exceptional departure from established protocols. Suggesting desperation rather than diplomatic evolution, Naruto concluded. Pragmatic necessity. Ghislaine corrected. Beast tribe governance prioritizes effective response over ideological consistency when survival concerns predominate. This characterizati, unaligned with Naruto's developing understanding of beast tribe cultural frameworks, practical adaptation within traditional value systems rather than rigid adherence to established procedures regardless of changing circumstances. Their conversation continued as they prepared for evening council meeting, Ghislaine providing valuable context regarding political dynamics among different clan representatives while Naruto integrated this information within their broader investigative framework. The combination created comprehensive strategic assessment that would facilitate effective interaction with council leadership. As promised, formal summons arrived with moonrise, ceremonial notification delivered by official representative wearing distinctive insignia indicating council authority rather than specific clan affiliation. They were escorted through community pathways now illuminated by distinctive alchemical lighting systems that created practical illumination while maintaining aesthetic harmony with natural surroundings. The council chamber itself reflected beast tribe governance philosophy, circular arrangement without elevated position that might indicate hierarchical authority. Seating designed for comfortable deliberation rather than ceremonial formality, acoustic properties ensuring equal voice projection regardless of physical positioning. Approximately 15 representatives occupied traditional positions around central fire pit, their varied appearance indicating diverse clan affiliations united through common purpose rather than homogeneous identity. Ages ranged from venerable elders to younger individuals whose presence suggested merit-based inclusion rather than exclusively age-determined authority. Their entrance generated momentary conversational pause before formal acknowledgement from a parent facilitator, elderly female whose elaborate facial markings suggested significant status within traditional hierarchy. Ghislaine Dedoldia, called Sword Hunter and Rift Fang. She announced with formal precision. Your presence honors traditional gathering space. The council acknowledges your response to official summons with appropriate appreciation. G.H. Ghislaine responded with traditional formula that Naruto now recognized as formal acceptance of recognition while establishing appropriate relationship parameters. The exchange continued through several ceremonial statements before addressing his own unexpected presence. You bring companion not recognized through traditional knowledge, the facilitator noted without apparent judgment. The council acknowledges unusual circumstances may necessitate exceptional arrangements while maintaining appropriate protocols. Ryukin Kagutsuchi possesses specialized knowledge directly relevant to current concerns. Ghislaine explained with formal precision. His expertise regarding dimensional disturbances represents practical necessity within current investigative framework. This introduction rated visible interest among council members, several leaning forward with increased attention. The facilitator acknowledged the explanation with appropriate gesture before addressing Naruto directly. The council extends conditional recognition to knowledge bearer Kagutsuchi, she stated. Participation rights include information contribution while observing traditional limitation regarding decision protocols. Naruto responded with carefully practiced formula Ghislaine had taught during preparation, formal acknowledgement accepting limited participation while recognizing traditional authority structures. His proper execution of unfamiliar protocol generated appreciative murmurs from several council members, suggesting successful navigation of potential diplomatic complication. With formal introductions completed, the council proceeded to substantive discussions. The facilitator outlined regional situation with impressive precision, detailed account of dimensional disturbances affecting multiple territories, documented manifestation patterns, observed entity behaviors, and response effectiveness evaluations. The information confirmed their developing assessment while adding BLE details previously unavailable through conventional investigation channels. Beast tribe territories had experienced systematic dimensional incursions following distinct patterns suggesting deliberate targeting rather than random phenomena, similar to human regions but with specific characteristics indicating customized approach. Most concerning were reported communications from manifested entities, statements referencing divine vessels and awakening potentials that aligned disturbingly with their previous encounters. The consistency suggested coordinated campaign rather than isolated incidents, supporting their theory regarding organized interdimensional activity rather than natural phenomena. After comprehensive situation assessment, discussion turned toward response strategies and investigative priorities. Several council members presented differing approaches based on clan-specific experiences, creating multifaceted perspective that demonstrated sophisticated analytical capabilities beyond stereotypical expectations. When opportunity for external input arose, Ghislaine provided detailed report regarding their own investigative findings, the Shrine encounter, entity communications, and developing theoretical framework explaining observed phenomena. Her presentation demonstrated impressive analytical capabilities alongside practical combat experience, earning visible respect from council members despite her relative youth compared to most representatives. Following her report, attention shifted to Naruto, expectant focus suggesting significant interest in whatever specialized knowledge had justified his unprecedented inclusion in traditionally closed proceedings. The patterns you've documented align with our own observations, he began, carefully balancing information sharing against necessary discretion. The dimensional entities appear engaged in systematic preparation rather than random incursion, establishing network of access points following specific geometric arrangement. He produced annotated map documenting known manifestation locations with theoretical pattern projections. The visual representation generated immediate recognition among council members, several producing their own documentation showing disturbing correspondence with his independent analysis. Most concerning is the apparent targeting of specific individuals rather than random interaction, Naruto continued. Entity communications consistently reference vessels and awakening potentials, suggesting search for compatible hosts rather than simple territorial acquisition. This assessment generated significant reaction among council members, several exchanging concerned glances that suggested private knowledge beyond general information sharing. The facilitators' expression revealed calculation before apparent decision regarding disclosure level. Your assessment aligns with restricted intelligence, she acknowledged. 3 Beast Tribe individuals have disappeared following entity encounters. Witnesses report unusual communications regarding suitable vessels, preceding disappearances. This information represented significant development beyond previously available intelligence. Ghislaine's expression tightened while Naruto mentally incorporated this revelation into their developing theoretical framework. The entities we've encountered specifically referenced 7 divine aspects seeking appropriate vessels, he explained. Their communications suggest some cosmic restructuring requiring physical incarnation through compatible hosts. Possession protocol. One council member stated with blunt assessment. Entity displacement of original consciousness through compatibility matching. Not precisely, Naruto corrected carefully. The communications suggested merger rather than replacement, integration of divine essence with existing consciousness rather than complete displacement. Marginally preferable violation, another representative observed dryly. Partial personality destruction rather than complete elimination. The assessment, while cynically framed, accurately captured fundamental ethical concerns regarding the entity's apparent objectives. Regardless of specific mechanism, their activities clearly involved non-consensual utilization of individuals for purposes beyond their control or comprehension. Discussion continued through evening, exploring implications and potential response strategies with impressive analytical sophistication. The council demonstrated knowledge integration capabilities belying stereotypical portrayals of Beast Tribe governance systems, combining practical experience with theoretical understanding to develop comprehensive assessment framework. As deliberations progressed, Naruto O.B. served Ghislaine's growing integration within formal proceedings despite her typical operational independence. Her contributions demonstrated evolving strategic perspective beyond tactical application. N.S. Evidence of continued development from pure combatant toward comprehensive leadership capabilities. By session conclusion, the council had established cooperative intelligence sharing protocols alongside coordinated response strategies addressing immediate security concerns. Naruto and Ghislaine received official authorization for continued investigation within Beast Tribe territories, unprecedented access reflecting situation severity rather than diplomatic evolution. As formal proceedings concluded, the facilitator approached them privately during transitional period before ceremonial conclusion. Your insights proved valuable beyond anticipated contribution, she acknowledged with professional appreciation rather than personal warmth. The Council recognizes knowledge transcends additional boundaries when existential threats emerge. Practical necessity drives effective adaptation, Ghislaine responded with appropriate formal phrase. The facilitator nodded agreement before addressing specific logistical arrangements. Your investigation continues with official sanction. Resources available through established channels. Additionally, she hesitated briefly before continuing with lowered voice indicating information beyond general dissemination. Tomorrow brings additional perspective potentially relevant to your theoretical framework. Ghislaine Dedoldia arrives for scheduled academic consultation regarding divinatory applications to dimensional phenomena. This announcement visibly impacted Ghislaine despite her typical emotional restraint. Unexpected timing coincidence. Perhaps. The facilitator replied with enigmatic expression suggesting deeper consideration. Though traditional wisdom questions coincidence during pattern manifestation periods. With that cryptic observation, she departed to manage ceremonial conclusion protocols, leaving them with significant development requiring immediate integration into their planning framework. Your cousin's arrival represents potentially valuable intelligence source, Naruto observed once privacy-permitted conversation. Academic perspective might provide theoretical context beyond practical observation parameters. Rinya's divinatory specialization potentially offers predictive capabilities regarding manifestation patterns, Ghislaine acknowledged, professional assessment temporarily superseding personal connection considerations. Though theoretical application requires practical verification through established methodologies, her response demonstrated characteristic prioritization of operational effectiveness over emotional reaction, professional discipline maintained despite unexpected personal development. Nevertheless, subtle ear positioning suggested genuine anticipation regarding family reunion beyond strategic considerations. The council session formally concluded with appropriate ceremonial elements, after which they returned to assigned accommodations for necessary rest before morning's developments. Their conversation continued during private debriefing, analyzing new information while adjusting investigative priorities accordingly. The disappearance's significant why elevate threat assessment beyond previous parameters, Naruto noted as they reviewed documented patterns. Entity objectives appear increasingly focused on individual acquisition rather than territorial preparation. Accelerated timeline implications, Ghislaine concluded with efficient analysis. Transition from preparation phase to implementation stage, requiring corresponding response escalation. Their discussion continued until practical necessity required sleep period, though both maintained heightened alertness even during rest cycles, professional habits established through years of operational experience in potentially hostile environments. Morning arrived with characteristic efficiency, both practitioners resuming necessary preparations while integrating new information into operational planning. Their established partnership demonstrated growing synchronization, complementary preparations conducted without redundancy or communication inefficiency. As they completed morning routines, unexpected preceded appearance of young female beast tribe member whose distinctive facial markings identified her as council messenger rather than general community representative. Ghislaine Dedoldia requests immediate consultation regarding priority intelligence, she announced with formal precision. Location designated as Eastern Consultation Chamber within Administrative Complex. Ghislaine acknowledged the message with appropriate protocol while Naruto noted her subtle physical response, marginally accelerated pulse and minor pupil dilation indicating emotional engagement. Despite maintained professional demeanor. They proceeded directly to designated location, following established pathways through community complex now bustling with morning activities. The administrative section demonstrated sophisticated organizational structure supporting governance functions beyond stereotypical expectations regarding beast tribe institutional development. Upon reaching designated consultation chamber, they encountered distinctive individual whose appearance immediately identified her relationship to Ghislaine despite significant physical differences. Where the sword area projected physical power through impressive musculature and imposing stature, this newcomer presented intellectual presence through alert observational intensity and calculated assessment. Ghislaine Dedoldia stood several inches shorter than her martial cousin, with slender build suggesting scholarly pursuits rather than combat specialization. Her leopard tribe markings followed similar familial patterns though arranged differently, while her attire blended traditional elements with academic styling, indicating integration between cultural contexts rather than abandonment. Most striking was her immediate analytical focus, assessing gaze that categorized and evaluated with impressive efficiency before any formal greeting occurred. When she finally spoke, her voice carried distinctive cadence, suggesting academic training alongside traditional speech patterns. Cousin, she acknowledged Ghislaine with formal affection before turning attention toward Naruto. An unexpected variant introducing probability disruption across multiple potential timelines. The unusual greeting immediately differentiated her communication style from typical interactions, where Ghislaine favored direct practical assessment. Rinia apparently preferred theoretical framing, incorporating specialized terminology from her academic discipline. Rinia, Ghislaine responded with subtle warmth beneath formal acknowledgement. Your academic advancement proceeded unannounced despite significant achievement metrics. Communication inefficiency regarding personal development represented practical priorities. Asian rather than deliberate information withholding, Rinia replied with what appeared to be standard conversational pattern for her. Critical research parameters required attention allocation beyond ceremonial notification protocols. Their exchange continued briefly through family-specific communication patterns before addressing immediate operational concerns. Rinia's attention shifted fully toward Naruto with renewed analytical intensity. Your energy signature presents classification anomalies beyond standard taxonomic parameters, she stated without preamble, suggesting origin discrepancies requiring theoretical framework modification. The direct reference to his unusual nature demonstrated perceptive capabilities beyond normal parameters, even for beast tribe sensory systems. Naruto maintained composed expression while calculating appropriate response level. Specialized circumstances created unique developmental parameters, he acknowledged with diplomatic precision. Huff immediate operational priorities suggest focusing on dimensional incursion patterns rather than individual variations. Rinia tilted her head slightly, gesture reminiscent of her cousin despite different contextual application. Fascinating deflection utilizing practical prioritization as conversational redirection. Effective though transparent methodology. Ghislaine intervened with characteristic pragmatism. Current circumstances necessitate information integration rather than classification debate. Your requested consultation implied priority intelligence beyond academic curiosity. This refocusing apparently satisfied Rinia's immediate analytical interests, as she immediately transitioned toward operational information sharing without further personal assessment. Divinatory projection indicates critical threshold event within approximately 72 hours, she explained, producing complex documentation from her academic satchel. Pattern convergence suggests dimension barrier degradation beyond previous manifestation parameters. The materials she presented demonstrated impressive academic rigor, theoretical calculations incorporating multiple magical systems alongside empirical observations from documented incursions. Her analysis integrated beast tribe traditional knowledge with cutting-edge academic theory, creating comprehensive predictive framework. ND conventional methodological limitations. Manifestation probability concentrates within specific geographic location, she continued, indicating particular region on detailed topographical map. Southwestern mountain complex containing historical ritual site predating current civilization parameters. The location corresponded disturbingly with their existing intelligence regarding unusual phenomena, confirming developing assessment regarding imminent significant activity beyond previous manifestation patterns. Timeline certainty metrics. Ghislaine inquired with professional precision. 87% probability within specified parameters, Rinia replied. Calculation methodology incorporates standard deviation adjustments for dimensional flux variables. Naruto studied he provided materials with growing concern. The mathematical models, while utilizing unfamiliar notation systems, demonstrated principles he recognized from his extensive interdimensional experience across 2 lifetimes. The projections aligned with his own developing assessment regarding manifestation patterns while providing specific temporal and geographical precision beyond his current capabilities. Your academic specialization provides valuable predictive framework, he acknowledged with genuine appreciation. The temporal specificity particularly enhances response preparation parameters. Rinia accepted the professional recognition with brief nod before continuing detailed briefing. Her presentation style reflected academic training while maintaining practical applicability, theoretical complexity translated into operational relevance through effective communication methodology. As their consultation continued, Naruto observed interesting dynamics between the Dedoldia cousins. Despite apparent personality differences and divergent career specializations, they demonstrated complementary intellectual approaches that enhanced collective analysis capabilities. Where Ghislaine provided practical operational assessment, Rinia contributed theoretical framework that contextualized observed phenomena within larger pattern recognition. Their interaction suggested lifelong familiarity despite apparent extended separation, comfortable communication patterns requiring minimal explicit explanation despite complex subject matter. The relationship dynamic provided valuable insight into Ghislaine's developmental background, suggesting intellectual environment beyond stereotypical warrior training. The briefing concluded with specific action recommendations based on predicted manifestation parameters. Rinia's analysis suggested proactive intervention rather than reactive response, positioning experienced personnel at projected manifestation location prior to threshold event rather than responding after initiation. Barrier reinforcement methodologies potentially reduce manifestation probability by 34%, she explained, presenting theoretical countermeasures developed through her academic research. Though implementation requires specialized knowledge beyond conventional magical practitioners, the approaches incorporate principles of utilized successfully in previous incidents. Naruto noted after reviewing her proposed methodologies. Though scale expansion requires additional power sources beyond individual capacity, regional ley line convergence provides potential amplification framework, Rinia suggested, indicating specific geographical features on her detailed maps. Though utilization requires specialized channeling methodologies beyond conventional taumaturgical approaches, their discussion evolved into technical planning session, integrating Rinia's theoretical knowledge with Naruto's practical experience and Ghislaine's operational expertise. The combination created comprehensive response strategy addressing multiple contingency parameters while maintaining implementation flexibility. As planning proceeded, Ghislaine maintained primary focus on logistical considerations while occasionally contributing tactical refinements to proposed methodologies. Her evolving strategic perspective demonstrated continued development beyond pure combat applications, evidence of expanding capabilities through their educational partnership. By consultation conclusion, they had established detailed operational plan incorporating available intelligence while maintaining appropriate adaptation capacity for unforeseen developments. Rinia's academic precision complemented Ghislaine's practical experience, creating balanced approach that addressed theoretical considerations alongside implementation requirements. With formal planning completed, conversation briefly shifted toward personal reconnection between the cousins, professional focus temporarily yielding to familial relationship maintained despite divergent career paths and extended separation. Your academic achievement metrics exceed projected parameters despite institutional resistance factors, Ghislaine noted with subtle pride beneath professional assessment. Significant accomplishment requiring recognition beyond practical acknowledgement. Institutio. Null barrier navigation represented application of principles you initially demonstrated through different methodological framework, Rinia replied with rare directness suggesting emotional significance beneath academic terminology. Persistent objective pursuit despite opposition resistance constitutes family characteristic rather than individual innovation. The exchange revealed deeper connecti on than their professional interaction initially suggested. Mutual respect transcending different specialization choices while acknowledging shared foundational values despite divergent expression methodologies. Naruto maintained respectful distance during this personal interaction, recognizing important relationship dynamics beyond immediate operational considerations. The observation provided valuable insight into Ghislaine's character development context while suggesting potential additional resources through extended familial connections. As their consultation concluded, Rinia provided additional documentation supporting their operational planning while establishing communication protocols for continued intelligence sharing. Her academic position offered access to specialized information sources beyond conventional channels, creating valuable supplementary resource for their ongoing investigation. The Council has authorized priority response team deployment supporting your intervention strategy. She informed them as they prepared to depart. Specialized personnel with relevant experience regarding dimensional anomalies rather than conventional security forces. Appreciated resource allocation. Ghislaine acknowledged. Though coordination protocols require clear delineation regarding operational authority parameters, already addressed through facilitator intervention, Rinia assured her. Your experience classification establishes primary tactical authority within collaborative framework. This arrangement represented significant institutional confidence in Ghislaine's capabilities despite her independent operational history. The Council's willingness to assign personnel under her authority indicated recognition beyond traditional hierarchical consideratio. NS. Practical meritocracy superseding formal rank structures during critical situations. As they departed the consultation chamber, Naruto reflected on their developing situation with cautious optimism. The additional resources and intelligence significantly enhanced their operational capabilities, while Rinia's academic perspective provided valuable theoretical framework contextualizing observed phenomena. Most encouraging was Ghislaine's continued development, her natural capabilities enhanced through targeted training while her strategic perspective expanded through collaborative planning exercises. The warrior demonstrated impressive growth trajectory suggesting exceptional potential beyond current capabilities. Their partnership had evolved beyond initial teacher-student dynamic Taoa road genuine collaborative relationship wherein each contributed complementary expertise toward shared objectives. The development suggested promising foundation for addressing increasingly complex challenges as interdimensional threats continued escalating beyond initial manifestation patterns. Together, they represented formidable response capability combining practical combat experience with the theoretical understanding and tactical expertise. Whether this combination would prove sufficient against emerging cosmic threats remained uncertain, but their preparation proceeded with all available resources directed toward optimal outcome probability. The sword and the dragon moved forward together, each strengthening the other through genuine partnership rather than mere alliance of convenience. Their developing bond represented something beyond professional collaboration, potential foundation for significant impact across multiple dimensions as cosmic boundaries continued weakening despite their best preventative efforts. Whatever emerged from between worlds would face unified opposition rather than fragmented resistance. The coming confrontation would determine whether their combined capabilities could withstand cosmic forces seeking manifestation through unwilling vessels, test of preparation and partnership against powers transcending conventional threat parameters. They would face it together. Dragon and sword united against forces seeking to reshape reality itself through unwilling vessels and weakened dimensional barriers. Their journey had only begun, but already their Ombeam's strength suggested possibilities beyond individual capabilities, partnership creating potential exceeding the sum of its constituent parts. The true test approached with accelerating timeline. They would meet it prepared, together. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Scales of Power. Autumn winds swept across the mountain pass, carrying the scent of pine and distant snow. The sword sanctum rose Ram ancient stone like a defiant blade, a stark silhouette against dawn sky where generations of warriors had sought mastery or met humiliation. Not a school in the conventional sense, but a testing ground where sword styles were judged by results rather than lineage or politics. At least, that was the ideal. Reality, as Naruto had learned across 2 lifetimes, rarely matched noble intentions. He sanctum maintains separation from political influences through economic independence, Ghislaine explained as they navigated the steep approach. Her breath emerged in visible puffs against the mountain chill. Testing fees from applicants, percentage commissions from successful graduates, subsequent contracts, and territorial sovereignty granted through historical treaties. Naruto studied the imposing structure with experienced assessment. Independence in theory, yet humans still dominate leadership positions despite beast tribe membership percentages. Politics manifests differently here, Ghislaine acknowledged, adjusting her massive sword's position across her back. Merit-based advancement remains theoretically accessible regardless of species. Practical barriers exist but differ from conventional discrimination patterns. Their journey from Moonwater Gathering had taken 4 days, following ancient pathways through territories few humans ever witnessed. According to Rinia's divination, They had approximately 2 days remaining before the predicted major dimensional incursion. Time enough to address Ghislaine's advancement trial while positioning themselves closer to the projected manifestation location. The Sword Sanctum's strategic position served both purposes simultaneously, recognized neutral territory for official sword ranking advancement while geographical. Y proximate to southwestern mountains where anomalous activity concentrated. As they approached the outer gates, Naruto observed subtle magical defenses integrated within seemingly decorative architectural elements, detection wards, barrier reinforcements, and emergency response triggers indicating sophisticated security beyond physical fortifications. Whoever designed the system understood both conventional and esoteric threats. Visitor traffic has increased significantly, Ghislaine noted, indicating various groups ascending multiple pathways toward the sanctum. Unusual activity pattern for autumn season. Naruto had noticed the same anomaly. Rinnea's divination suggests widespread awareness of something approaching. Perhaps not specifically dimensional incursion, but general instability generating precautionary responses. Quote, or deliberate convergence related to incursion facilitation, Ghislaine countered with strategic perception that continued impressing him. Potential culties. T-infiltration utilizing legitimate institutional access. A concerning possibility we should investigate while addressing your advancement trial, Naruto agreed. Speaking of which, what specific assessment parameters can we anticipate? Ghislaine outlined the evaluation process with characteristic precision. The Sword Sanctum administered advancement examinations through standardized protocols regardless of style affiliation. Candidates demonstrated proficiency through regulated combat trials against designated examiners, technique demonstration sequences, and practical application scenarios. Formal recognition of Sword King status requires successful completion of 3-phase examination, she explained as they joined the formal entry queue. Technical demonstration, examiner combat trial, and special challenge selected by evaluation committee. Selection committee composition, representatives from 3 primary sword schools, Water God, North God, and Sword God styles, Ghislaine replied. Traditionally balanced to prevent favoritism, though current composition favors Water God practitioners following recent leadership transitions. This information caused Naruto momentary concern. Their modified training had incorporated principles potentially controversial among traditional stylists, particularly Water God adherents who emphasized doctrinal purity over innovative adaptation. Our integrated approach may generate resistance from traditionalists, he observed, particularly given your beast tribe heritage already creating evaluation prejudice. Success super. Seeds methodology during final assessment, Ghislaine responded with pragmatic confidence. Results-based evaluation remains foundational sanctum principle despite political evolution. Her assertion would soon face practical testing. They reached the registration checkpoint where a bored-looking human official processed applicants with bureaucratic efficiency. His expression registered momentary surprise upon seeing a beast tribe candidate for advanced evaluation rather than basic certification, though professional training quickly reasserted neutral processing demeanor. Ghislaine Dedoldia, she stated formally. Advanced evaluation application, Sword God classification, King rank assessment. The official's eyebrows rose fractionally before he consulted elaborate ledger containing pre-registered candidates. Sponsorship verification, independent application, she replied. Self-sponsored through prior contract completion verification. This unconventional approach generated visible disapproval, though the official maintained procedural compliance. Documentation supporting qualification prerequisites. Ghislaine produced comprehensive portfolio containing contract confirmations, witness testimonials, and formal certifications from authorized verification authorities. The materials represented years of methodical documentation, evidence of long-term planning rather than spontaneous aspiration. After thorough review that appeared deliberately extended beyond procedural necessity, the official reluctantly acknowledged qualification validity. Preliminary assessment scheduled tomorrow morning. Evaluation Hall 3. Technical demonstration followed by examiner combat trial assuming adequate performance metrics. Ghislaine accepted the documentation with appropriate formality, her expression revealing nothing despite the official's subtle condescension. As they moved beyond registration checkpoint toward visitor accommodations, Naruto noted increasing attendee. On from various observers, some displaying obvious curiosity while others maintained careful neutrality, masking deeper assessment. "Your application has generated significant interest," he observed quietly. "Beast tribe candidates rarely attempt advanced classifications," she acknowledged, "particularly through independent sponsorship rather than established school affiliation." The Sanctum's V. Satur Quarter reflected its international significance, diverse architectural styles accommodating varied cultural preferences while maintaining functional consistency. Their assigned lodging represent standard accommodations rather than privileged housing, another subtle indication of institutional bias despite formal procedural compliance. After establishing necessary security within their temporary quarters, they proceeded toward observation galleries where current evaluations provided valuable intelligence regarding assessment standards and examiner tendencies. Understanding procedural implementation beyond theoretical description would provide tactical advantages during tomorrow's trials. The main evaluation hall buzzed with professional activity, multiple assessment areas operating simultaneously while observers from various sword schools analyzed performances with critical expertise. Candidates ranging from basic certification applicants to advanced specialist evaluations demonstrated their capabilities before experienced examiners representing all major stylistic traditions. Impressive operational efficiency, Naruto noted as they secured observation positions overlooking primary assessment areas. Standardized evaluation protocols despite stylistic diversity. Ghislaine nodded while studying current examinations with professional focus. Foundational principles tr. Ansen-specific stylistic implementations. Core competencies remain consistent despite technical variations. They observed several evaluations with analytical attention, identifying examiner tendencies, size and assessment emphases that might influence tomorrow's trials. Naruto noted consistent patterns despite superficial procedural variations, core evaluative focus on efficiency, adaptability, and practical effectiveness rather than stylistic purity or technical perfection. Their assessment methodology aligns with our integrated approach despite traditional separations, he observed. Fundamental effectiveness superseding doctrinal adherence. Theoretical foundation versus practical application, Ghislaine agreed. Institutional philosophy maintains pragmatic orientation despite political evolution. Their observation continued through afternoon, gathering valuable intelligence regarding current standards and examiner expectations. The process revealed significant insights beyond procedural familiarity, subtle political undercurrents influencing evaluation implementation despite theoretical neutrality. As day progressed toward evening, the observation galleries gradually emptied as formal assessments concluded. They remained, analyzing observed patterns while discussing strategic adaptations for tomorrow's trials. Their conversation attracted occasional attention from passing sword practitioners, generating speculative assessment from those recognizing Ghislaine as beast tribe warrior pursuing advanced classification. Their discussion paused as approaching footsteps announced deliberate interruption. A tall human female advanced toward their position with unmistakable purpose, her movement displaying martial precision that immediately identified significant combat experience despite civilian attire. Her features combined striking beauty with hardened intensity, creating distinctive presence that commanded immediate attention without obvious effort. Unusual preparation methodology, she observed without introduction, studying Ghislaine with critical assessment. Independent application following non-traditional training protocols. Interesting approach considering evaluation committee composition. Quote, Ghislaine acknowledged the newcomer with professional recognition rather than defensive response. Effectiveness supersedes methodology when practical application determines survival. Theory versus implementation, the woman noted with hint of amusement. A perspective certain committee members might consider heretical despite institutional philosophy. Naruto studied the newcomer with experienced evaluation. Her posture, movement dynamics, and subtle energy signature suggested North God-style specialization at advanced implementation level. The C.A. Sewell confidence and evaluative precision indicated significant status within institutional hierarchy rather than ordinary practitioner. Isolt Cruel, Ghislaine identified formally. North God practitioner, examiner classification. Special assessment specialist. The introduction confirmed Naruto's assessment while providing crucial additional context. This woman would likely participate in Ghislaine's evaluation. her current interaction representing unofficial assessment beyond formal protocols. Ghislaine Dedoldia, Isolt acknowledged. Your reputation includes interesting contradictions. Conventional Sword God Foundation implementing unconventional application methodologies. Traditional Beast Tribe combat principles integrated with innovative energy manipulation techniques. Her tension shifted toward Naruto with penetrating assessment. Under guidance from unaffiliated practitioner without recognized institutional certification yet demonstrating capabilities beyond conventional classification parameters. The observation carried professional curiosity beneath subtle challenge, evaluating potential irregularity while acknowledging observed effectiveness. Her approach suggested analytical intelligence beyond technical expertise, examining underlying principles rather than superficial qualifications. Institutional certification verifies standardized knowledge transmission, Naruto responded calmly. Practical capability demonstrates actual understanding regardless of documentation sequencing. Isolt's expression suggested appreciation for the diplomatic formulate. Ion addressing her implicit challenge without defensive justification. An interesting perspective with philosophical merit, she acknowledged. Though potentially challenging within institutional evaluation frameworks prioritizing standardized qualification metrics. Results-based assessment transcends procedural qualification when survival determines methodology effectiveness, Ghislaine Int. Rejected with practical focus that characterized her approach to philosophical debates. Isolt studied her with renewed intensity, reassessing initial evaluation based on demonstrated philosophical articulation beyond stereotypical expectations. Theory versus implementation, she repeated her earlier observation. Tomorrow's evaluation provides practical testing ground for philosophical positions. She turned to leave before adding final observation. Committee composition includes traditionalists promoting conventional implementation alongside efficiency advocates prioritizing results regardless of methodological origins. The information represented valuable intelligence delivered through seemingly casual conversation, warning disguised as professional observation that revealed more out Isolt's own position than perhaps intended. Interesting interaction suggesting evaluation complexity beyond standard protocols, Ghislaine noted after Isolt departed. Her warning indicates internal political divisions affecting assessment implementation despite institutional neutrality principles, and potential personal interest beyond professional evaluation, Naruto added. Her assessment incorporated genuine curiosity alongside official examination responsibilities. They discussed implications while continuing observation, integrating this new information into their preparation strategy. The interaction suggested both challenges and opportunities. Potential resistance from traditionalists alongside possible support from pragmatic evaluators prioritizing effectiveness over doctrinal purity. As evening approached, they relocated to communal dining facilities where evaluation candidates, practicing sword masters, and institutional staff gathered for meals. The arrangement provided additional intelligence gathering opportunities while establishing visible presence within the sanctum's professional community. The dining hall's architecture reflected the institution's national significance, spacious central areas surrounded by specialized sections accommodating diverse cultural preferences and dietary requirements. The design prioritized functionality while acknowledging diversity, creating an environment where practitioners from various traditions could maintain cultural practices without separation from broader community. As they selected appropriate seating, with strategic positioning providing optimal observation coverage, Naruto noticed distinctive figure entering from opposite entrance, female elf whose presence immediately captured attention despite her apparent attempt to maintain inconspicuous positioning. Even without enhanced perception, her extraordinary beauty would have drawn notice, flawless features framed by golden hair creating classical aesthetic perfection. But Naruto's specialized senses detected deeper significance beneath surface appearance. Ancient energy signature suggesting lifespan far exceeding normal elven longevity, distinctive resonance indicating unusual existential parameters. More intriguing was her momentary reaction upon noticing him, subtle widening of eyes quickly masked behind practiced composure, suggesting recognition beyond casual observation. She recovered with impressive efficiency, redirecting apparent attention while maintaining peripheral awareness of his position with professional subtlety. Elinali's Dragon Road, Ghislaine identified quietly, noting his interest. A mortal warrior courtesan, Independent contractor classification, unaffiliated combat specialist. Immortal, Naruto questioned with heightened interest. Cursed with biological immortality through ancient magical disaster, Ghislaine explained with characteristic precision. Exact circumstances remain historically disputed, though verified lifespan exceeds 300 years through documented contracts preserved in historical archives. The information explained the unusual energy signature while raising additional questions regarding her apparent recognition. Someone with centuries of experience might possess knowledge beyond conventional historical limitations, potentially including information regarding dragon deities and ancient power structures predating current civilization parameters. Their meal continued with casual conversation while maintaining situational awareness regarding significant individuals within the communal space. Ghislaine consumed appropriate nutrition with practical efficiency rather than social engagement, focusing on physiological preparation for tomorrow's evaluation, rather than institutional networking despite potential political advantages. As they completed their meal, Naruto noticed Elinalize departing through side entrance leading toward private gardens rather than main residential sections. Her movement suggested deliberate timing rather than casual departure, creating opportunity for potential interaction beyond crowded public spaces. All conduct per. I met her assessment before evening meditation, he informed Ghislaine, who nodded with understanding beyond his stated purpose. Their partnership had evolved toward implicit comprehension rather than requiring explicit explanation for strategic decisions. Following appropriate interval to maintain casual appearance rather than obvious pursuit, Naruto proceeded toward garden access with natural demeanor masking purposeful intention. The exterior gardens offered multiple interconnected spaces providing varying degrees of privacy while maintaining aesthetic harmony through sophisticated landscape design. He located Elinalize in secluded meditation area featuring small waterfall and strategic placement ensuring privacy without isolation, location selection demonstrating security consciousness alongside appreciation for natural aesthetics. Your pursuit demonstrates reasonable subtlety despite obvious intention, she observed without turning as he approached, suggesting professional experience beyond apparent age parameters. Naruto appreciated her direct approach rather than pretending coincidental encounter, as your positioning choice demonstrates security consciousness alongside desire for conversation opportunity. She turned with graceful precision, studying him with eyes reflecting centuries of experience beneath youthful appearance. Ryuken Kagutsuchi, unaffiliated practitioner implementing unusual energy manipulation techniques incorporating principles from multiple theoretical frameworks with specific applications regarding interdimensional anomalies. The detailed assessment confirmed his suspicion regarding deliberate intelligence gathering prior to their encounter. Your information sources maintain impressive efficiency. Centuries provide opportunity are establishing comprehensive intelligence networks, she acknowledged without false modesty. Though certain aspects of your existence present unusual classification challenges despite extensive research capacity. Naruto recognized the implicit question beneath her statement. Some mysteries remain appropriately ambiguous even within comprehensive information frameworks. Diplomatic evasion, she noted with slight smile suggesting appreciation rather than offense. Though perhaps unnecessary considering my own unusual existence parameters. She gestured toward nearby stone bench position. D for optimal observation of flowing water while maintaining defensive sightlines, another indication of ingrained security consciousness despite casual appearance. Immortality provides unique perspective regarding existential classifications, she continued after they seated themselves. Conventional categories become increasingly arbitrary when observation timeframes extend beyond normal lifespans. Perspective evolution through temporal expansion, Naruto agreed, recognizing opportunity for philosophical exchange beyond immediate tactical objectives. Though immortality carries burdens alongside perspective advantages. Personal experience speaking rather than theoretical assessment, Elinalize observed with penetrating perception. Interesting implication from someone without documented lifespan expansion beyond normal parameters. The observation represented direct challenge to his ambiguous background, though delivered through philosophical framing rather than confrontational questioning. Her approach suggested genuine interest beyond intelligence gathering, intellectual curiosity alongside practical assessment. Some experiences transcend conventional documentation parameters, Naruto acknowledged. offering partial truth within diplomatic framing, creating perspective similarities with those experiencing extended existence through different methodologies. Elinalise studied him with renewed intensity, her expression suggesting recognition beyond his careful wording. Your energy signature incorporates unusual resonance patterns typically associated with entity, i.e. predating current civilization frameworks, particularly distinctive harmonic alignment with draconic essence classifications from pre-cataclysm historical period. The observation demonstrated perception capabilities far exceeding normal parameters alongside historical knowledge beyond conventional limitations. Her direct reference to draconic classifications confirmed his suspicion regarding her potential information value concerning his own nature. Knowledge regarding pre-cataclysm draconic entities represents specialized historical interest beyond common academic frameworks, he noted, neither confirming nor denying her assessment while establishing mutual understanding regarding conversational parameters. 3 centuries provide extensive research opportunities, she replied with subtle humor, particularly when conventional temporal limitations become increasingly irrelevant to personal experience frameworks. Their conversation had established mutual recognition beyond explicit acknowledgement, each understanding the other possessed unusual nature without requiring detailed explanation. This implicit comprehension created foundation for potentially valuable information and exchange regarding matters beyond conventional knowledge limitations. Your interest in interdimensional anomalies suggests practical concerns beyond academic curiosity, Elinalise observed, shifting toward their immediate situational context, particularly given recent pattern acceleration beyond historical precedent. As does your presence at specialized sort evaluation facility despite MBAT capabilities exceeding conventional classification requirements, Naruto countered, maintaining information balance within their developing exchange. Elinalise acknowledged the observation with appreciative nod. Mutual situation assessment suggests potential alignment regarding current dimensional stability concerns. Perhaps informational cooperation offers mutual benefits despite background ambiguities. Pragmatic approach transcending conventional alliance requirements, Naruto agreed, recognizing valuable opportunity despite necessary caution. Though specific parameters require careful delineation, their negotiation proceeded with sophisticated efficiency reflecting extensive experience on both sides, establishing information sharing boundaries while identifying mutual STS regarding dimensional stability concerns. Elinalise possessed historical knowledge regarding previous incursion patterns predating current civilization, while Naruto offered specialized understanding of interdimensional mechanics beyond conventional theoretical frameworks. As their discussion progressed, Naruto recognized Elinalise represented potentially crucial alliance beyond immediate tactical considerations. Her centuries of experience, extensive intelligence networks, and specialized historical knowledge offered strategic advantages addressing emerging dimensional threats, while her unusual existence parameters created philosophical understanding regarding his own complex nature. Your Beast Tribe student demonstrates impressive capabilities beyond conventional classification parameters, Elinalise observed as their conversation shifted toward immediate tactical situations, particularly interesting given traditional limitations regarding magical integration within physical combat methodologies among Beast Tribe practitioners. Artificial limitations reflecting political agenda rather than actual capability parameters, Naruto responded, his tone reflecting momentary intensity regarding discriminatory frameworks he'd encountered across multiple worlds. Personal conviction rather than theoretical position, Elinalise noted with perceptive assessment, suggesting experiential foundation beyond academic understanding. Their conversation continued through early evening, establishing valuable intelligence exchange while developing potential alliance framework addressing mutual concerns regarding dimensional stability. Elinalise provided historical context regarding previous incursion patterns during her extended lifetime, while Naruto offered theoretical analysis connecting historical events with current manifestation characteristics. Tomorrow's evaluation presents potential complications beyond standard assessment parameters, she observed as their immediate discussion concluded. Committee composition includes several traditionalists with documented resistance regarding innovative methodologies, particularly involving Beast Tribe applicants pursuing advanced classifications. Political resistance disguised as procedural concerns, Naruto surmised. Precisely. Elinalize confirmed. Though countervailing factors include practical assessment, T advocates prioritizing effectiveness above doctrinal purity. The balance currently favors traditionalists following recent leadership transitions, creating challenging evaluation environment despite theoretical merit-based assessment philosophy. The information aligned with their existing intelligence while providing additional context regarding specific committee members and their philosophical positions. This knowledge would prove valuable during tomorrow's evaluation, allowing strategic adaptation addressing anticipated resistance points. As they concluded their initial meeting with arrangements for subsequent information exchange, Elinalize offered parting observation that confirmed Naruto's assessment regarding her perceptive capabilities. Your draconic resonance patterns have strengthened since your arrival, she noted casually, suggesting environmental factors potentially accelerating dormant aspect manifestation. Perhaps consider stabilization techniques if maintaining current existence parameters represents priority objective. The observation demonstrated perception far exceeding even his own awareness. Naruto had sensed subtle changes in his internal energy patterns but hadn't recognized specific acceleration parameters until her explicit identification. The information represented both warning and assistance, identifying potential concern while suggesting essence of mitigation techniques beyond his current knowledge. Appreciated observation with potential significance beyond immediate application, he acknowledged. Perhaps future discussions might address specialized stabilization methodologies. Elinalize nodded understanding before departing with graceful efficiency that masked impressive combat capability beneath elegant exterior. Their meeting had established potential alliance offering mutual benefits while raising intriguing possibilities regarding his own nature. Someone with centuries of observation regarding draconic entities might possess knowledge addressing his fundamental existential questions. Returning to their accommodations, Naruto found Ghislaine completing specialized meditation sequences he'd taught during previous training sessions. Her disciplined focus demonstrated impressive progress integrating mental techniques alongside physical combat methodologies, developing comprehensive capability beyond conventional specialization limitations. Productive intelligence gathering, she inquired without interrupting her practice. Potentially valuable historical context regarding previous incursion patterns, he confirmed. Elinalize Dragonroad possesses specialized knowledge concerning pre-cataclysm periods including draconic entity classifications. Ghislaine completed her sequence before responding. Useful. Intelligence source assuming appropriate verification methodologies. Extended lifespan doesn't automatically ensure historical accuracy despite observation opportunities. Her cautionary assessment demonstrated developing strategic thinking beyond tactical applications, evaluating information sources with appropriate skepticism rather than accepting apparent authority without verification. This evolution represented significant advancement from her earlier combat-focused perspective, showing intellectual development alongside physical training. They discussed tomorrow's evaluation parameters with professional focus, integrating newly acquired intelligence with existing preparation strategies. Ghislaine absorbed tactical adjustments with impressive efficiency, adapting plans based on TT composition information while maintaining fundamental approach integrity rather than compromising core methodologies for political accommodation. Authentic demonstration remains primary objective despite potential resistance, she stated with characteristic directness. Evaluation validity requires genuine capability representation rather than politically calibrated performance. Naruto AP appreciated her principled position while ensuring she understood potential consequences. Authentic innovation often generates institutional resistance protecting established paradigms. Your demonstrat ion may produce recognition alongside opposition from those perceiving challenge to traditional authority structures. Acceptable consequence parameters, she responded without hesitation. Advancem, ent without integrity represents hollow achievement lacking fundamental value. Her unwavering commitment to authentic representation despite potential political complications reflected core character. Our strength transcending combat capability. Ghislaine sought genuine mastery rather than mere institutional recognition, understanding fundamental distinction between external validation and actual capability development. Morning arrived with characteristic efficiency, both practitioners completing specialized preparation routines optimized for their respective responsibilities. Ghislaine focused N. Technical readiness through calibrated warm-up sequences, while Naruto completed subtle reinforcement workings providing enhanced perceptual capabilities without obvious magical manifestation that might generate unnecessary attention. The evaluation hall already bustled with professional activity when they arrived, multiple assessment areas operating simultaneously while observers studied performances with critical expertise. Ghislaine's assignment to Evaluation Hall 3 placed her among advanced candidates pursuing specialized classifications rather than basic certification applicants. As they proceeded toward designated assessment area, Naruto noticed several significant observers positioned strategically throughout the chamber. Isolde Cruel maintained professional neutrality despite her earlier interaction, though her positioning suggested specific interest in Ghislaine's upcoming performance. More surprising was Elinaliza's presence among official observers, her status apparent. Lee warranting specialized access despite unaffiliated classification. Most concerning were several individuals whose attentive focus seemed directed toward Naruto himself rather than evaluation candy. Dates, their positioning and communication patterns suggesting coordinated observation beyond casual interest. Without obvious identifiers he couldn't determine specific affiliation, though there have. IOR indicated professional intelligence gathering rather than random curiosity. Ghislaine had noticed the attention as well, her subtle positioning adjustment creating optimal defensive formation without obvious intentionality. Their partnership had evolved toward intuitive coordination requiring minimal explicit communication, each understanding the other's tactical assessments through subtle behavioral indicators. The evaluation committee entered with formal precision, 7 masters representing various sword traditions with appropriate institutional authority. Their composition confirmed Elinaliza's intelligence regarding traditional majority following recent leadership transitions, though several members' reputations suggested practical assessment prioritization despite stylistic affiliations. Preliminary introductions proceeded with standard protocol efficiency, establishing formal assessment parameters while identifying specific evaluation objectives. Ghislaine maintained appropriate professional demeanor throughout procedural requirements, her responses demonstrating thorough preparation regarding institutional expectations. Technical demonstration phase will commence following standard protocols, announced the committee chairperson, elderly human male whose water god style affiliation suggested potential traditionalist perspective despite reputation for fair assessment implementation. Candidate will perform required sequence demonstrations followed by specialization selections representing personal methodology characteristics. Ghislaine acknowledged Instructio NS with appropriate formality before moving to central demonstration area. Her preparation reflected balanced approach, formal requirements addressed with technical precision while maintaining readiness. For subsequent phases requiring adaptive application. The required sequences represented standardized assessment tools across all sword styles, fundamental techniques demonstrating core principles transcending specific methodological implementations. Ghislaine performed these with textbook precision, demonstrating comprehensive foundation understanding while maintaining efficient energy conservation for later evaluation phases. More revealing were her selected specialization demonstrations, personalized sequences revealing individual methodological approaches beyond standardized requirements. Here Ghislaine implemented carefully calibrated integration between traditional sword god principles and their innovative modifications, demonstrating fundamental technique respect alongside practica. Evolution addressing actual combat requirements. Naruto observed committee reactions with analytical attention, identifying individual responses indicating philosophical positions regarding her performance. Several traditionalists displayed subtle disapproval toward innovative elements, while practically oriented members showed professional interest regarding effectiveness potential beyond doctrinal considerations. Most interesting was Isolde's reaction, professional assessment momentarily revealing genuine appreciation despite maintained neutral expression. The North God practitioner recognized practical effectiveness transcending stylistic boundaries, her experience prioritizing results above doctrinal adherence despite institutional affiliation. The technical demonstration concluded with formal acknowledgement from committee chairman. Candidate demonstrates required proficiency regarding standardized assessment parameters. Progression to examiner combat trial approved following required interval. This standard pronouncement represented procedural advancement rather than qualitative assessment, though successful completion indicated technical capability meeting minimum advancement requirements. The combat trial would provide actual evaluation regarding practical application beyond formalized sequences. During required interval between assessment phases, Naruto provided targeted performance analysis alongside strategic recommendations addressing observed committee reactions. Ghislaine absorbed this information with professional focus, integrating tactical adjustments within fundamental approach parameters rather than compromising methodological integrity for political accommodation. Combat examiner selection suggests strategic consideration beyond random assignment, he noted. Indicating designated opponent entering preparation area. Mid-range water god specialist emphasizing defensive counterattack methodology, logical challenge against sword god offensive. Prioritization while potentially problematic regarding our integrated approach. Ghislaine studied her assigned examiner with analytical precision. Counter-pressure specialist utilizing momentum redirection against aggressive opponents. Traditional selection against sword god practitioners exploiting standard methodology limitations. While potentially vulnerable against our modified APROAC. Incorporating cyclical energy application rather than linear force projection, Naruto completed the assessment. Presenting opportunity demonstrating integration advantages without excessive traditional challenge that might activate political resistance. Their analysis suggested deliberate examiner selection providing legitimate evaluation opportunity without creating excessive controversy through impossible challenge parameters. This indicated potential support within committee despite apparent traditionalist majority, someone ensuring fair assessment opportunity despite political considerations. The combat trial commenced with standard protocols, formal acknowledgements establishing assessment parameters while defining victory conditions based on technical demonstration rather than actual combat conclusion. This evaluation framework prioritized methodological implementation over simple victory achievement, requiring demonstration of advanced principles rather than mere opponent defeat. Ghislaine approached the engagement with disciplined precision, initiating standard sword god methodology establishing baseline assessment parameters before systematically introducing integrated elements demonstrating their practical advantages. This progressive implementation allowed clear comparison between traditional approaches and innovative modifications within single evaluation context. Her examiner demonstrated professional competence applying water god defensive principles against conventional sword god techniques, redirecting linear force projections while establishing counter TTACK opportunities exploiting momentum transfer limitations. The approach represented textbook implementation against traditional offensive methodologies, revealing both effectiveness and limitations within established framework. The demonstration's strategic brilliance emerged as Ghislaine systematically transitioned toward their integrated approach, maintaining recognizable sword god foundation, while incorporating modified energy circulation principles addressing traditional limitations. Where conventional techniques created predictable force vectors vulnerable to redirection, their cyclica energy application maintained power delivery while adapting to defensive manipulations. Most impressive was her implementation restraint, demonstrating innovative advantages without humiliating her examiner through overwhelming application. Each sequence showed specific improvement addressing identified limitation while maintaining professional respect regarding traditional approaches, creating educational demonstration rather than competitive domination. Committee reactions revealed philosophical divisions alongside professional assessment. Traditionalists displayed visible concern regarding methodological innovations despite demonstrated effectiveness, while practical evaluators showed genuine interest in application advantages beyond doctrinal considerations. The division confirmed air intelligence regarding committee composition while revealing potential support exceeding initial estimates. The combat demonstration concluded with formal disengagement following comprehensive principle demonstration rather than opponent defeat, Ghislaine prioritizing evaluation objectives above competitive achievement in demonstration of professional understanding regarding assessment parameters. Candidate demonstrates advanced application proficiency within established evaluation framework, the committee chairman acknowledged with formal precision masking personal assessment. Progression to special challenge phase approved following required interval. This pronouncement represented significant achievement despite neutral formulation, advancing to final evaluation phase required unanimous committee approval rather than simple majority. Despite philosophical concerns, Even traditionalist members had acknowledged her technical proficiency meeting advancement requirements regardless of methodological innovations. During the interval before final phase, Naruto noticed increased observation from those individuals previously displaying coordinated interest. Their positioning had shifted toward optimal coverage, ensuring comprehensive monitoring rather than casual observation, suggesting heightened attention following her successful demonstration phases. Equally concerning was subtle magical activity he detected throughout the evaluation chamber, nearly imperceptible energy manipulations suggesting specialized monitoring beyond visual observation. Without obvious source identification, determining specific purpose remained impossible, though the sophisticated implementation suggested professional capabilities beyond conventional security measures. "We've attracted specialized attention beyond normal evaluation parameters," he informed Ghislaine quietly. "Multiple observation teams utilizing both physical positioning and magical monitoring systems." She acknowledged this information with professional composure, maintaining outward focus on upcoming challenge phase. Anticipated reaction following unconventional methodology demonstration. Potential security concerns regarding innovative capabilities beyond established classification frameworks, or specific interest regarding particular energy signatures beyond technical applications, Naruto added, conscious that his own unique nature might generate attention alongside her impressive performance, suggesting institutional awareness regarding dimensional concerns beyond public acknowledgement. This possibility carried significant implications regarding the sanctum's potential knowledge about approaching interdimensional threats. If institutional leadership possessed intelligence regarding dimensional incursions, their current evaluation might serve multiple purposes beyond simple advancement assessment, potentially evaluating their capabilities regarding specific threats rather than generic classification requirements. The special challenge phase commenced with unusual formalities suggesting heightened significance beyond standard evaluation protocols. The committee chairman's announcement confirmed their suspicion regarding additional assessment dimensions beyond conventional advancement requirements. The special challenge phase will address practical application capabilities under non-standard conditions, he explained with careful precision. Given recent regional security concerns regarding unusual manifestation phenomena, the committee has selected specialized assessment parameters evaluating adaptive response capabilities alongside technical proficiency. This explicit reference to unusual manifestation phenomena confirmed institutional awareness regarding dimensional incursions, suggesting their evaluation included specific capability assessment addressing these threats rather than merely conventional classification requirements. The challenge revealed itself as environment activated, specialized magical systems transforming standard evaluation area into dimensional simulation arena, incorporating actual instability characteristics rather than simple representation effects. The sophisticated implementation demonstrated institutional knowledge far exceeding public acknowledgement, suggesting extensive research regarding interdimensional phenomena despite maintained secrecy. Candidate will demonstrate adaptive response capabilities addressing unstable dimensional boundary conditions while maintaining technical proficiency standards, the chairman explained. Assessment parameters include effective neutralization methodology, collateral limitation implementation, and practical technique application under non-standard physical constraints. Ghislaine processed these instructions with professional focus despite their unusual nature, analyzing simulation parameters with tactical precision while preparing appropriate response methodologies. Her co-MPO sure demonstrated impressive adaptability considering unexpected challenge parameters extending beyond conventional evaluation expectations. The simulation activated with sophisticated precision, reading localized dimensional instability exhibiting actual physical characteristic deviations rather than mere illusory effects. Conventional physics principles experienced selective modification within designated areas, creating combat environment requiring fundamental adaptation beyond simple technique adjustments. Most impressive was the simulation's selective targeting, identifying and exploiting specific weaknesses within traditional sword god methodology when confronted with physics modifications affecting momentum transfer principles. This implementation demonstrated extensive analysis regarding stylistic limitations under dimensional instability conditions, suggesting institutional research beyond theoretical understanding. Ghislaine responded with comprehensive application of THIR integrated approach, utilizing cyclical energy principles specifically designed addressing variable physics parameters rather than depending on consistent environmental conditions. Where traditional L techniques failed under modified physical laws, their adaptive methodology maintained effectiveness through fundamental principle implementation transcending specific environmental dependencies. Our performance demonstrated practical advantages beyond theoretical discussion, proven effectiveness addressing actual dimensional anomalies rather than hypothetical scenarios. Each sequence showed IFIC application benefits regarding unstable conditions, creating compelling demonstration regarding integrated approach advantages within emerging threat contexts. Committee reactions revealed significant reassessment during her performance, even traditionalists displaying professional interest despite philosophical reservations. The practical demonstration addressing actual security concerns transcended doctrinal debates, focusing attention toward effectiveness against recognized threats regardless of methodological origins. Most revealing was Isolti's expression, momentary amazement breaken. Through professional composure during particularly effective sequence demonstrating adaptive principle application under extreme physics modification. The North God practitioner clearly recognized evolutionary implications beyond simple technique innovation, fundamental paradigm advancement addressing emerging threats beyond conventional response capabilities. The evaluation concluded with Ghislaine successfully neutralizing simulated dimensional instability through methodical application of integrated techniques. Her performance demonstrated comprehensive capability beyond specialized knowledge, adaptive methodology implementation rather than memorized response patterns, showing fundamental understanding rather than isolated technique mastery. Committee deliberation followed standard protocol requiring candidate withdrawal during assessment discussion. Naruto accompanied Ghislaine to designated waiting area, providing initial performance analysis while maintaining vigilant awareness regarding continued specialized observation from unidentified individuals throughout facility. Your implementation demonstrated ideal balance between traditional foundation respect and innovative adaptation. He noted with genuine appreciation. Establishing methodology evolution rather than replacement, addressing potential traditionalist concerns while demonstrating practical necessity through effectiveness demonstration. Ghislaine acknowledged his assessment with characteristic pragmatism. Practical application priority requires balanced approach recognizing valuable traditional elements while addressing identified limitations through targeted modifications rather than wholesale replacement. Her philosophical articulation demonstrated continuing development beyond physical technique advancement, evolving comprehensive understanding regarding both methodological principles and institutional dynamics affecting their implementation. This integrated perspective represented significant maturation beyond specialized combat focus toward broader mastery encompassing multiple domains simultaneously. Their conversation paused as unexpected visitor approached their waiting positio. Isolde cruel appearing with deliberate casualness masking obvious purposeful interaction. Impressive adaptive implementation addressing simulation parameters beyond expected response capabilities, she noted without preamble. Particularly effective energy circulation modifications maintaining momentum transfer under variable physics conditions. The direct acknowledgement represented significant perspective from established master, particularly given her North God affiliation traditionally maintaining competitive relationship with Sword God practitioners. Her willingness to recognize to Venice transcending stylistic boundaries demonstrated professional integrity prioritizing practical assessment above political considerations. Unstable conditions require adaptive principles beyond fixed methodology implementation. Ghislaine responded with appropriate professional acknowledgement. Effectiveness prioritization necessitates evolutionary development addressing emerging threats through fundamental understanding rather than technique accumulation. Philosophical position with practical demonstration supporting theoretical assertions, Isolde noted with approval. Rare combination within institutional evaluation contexts typically emphasizing either theoretical articulation or practical implementation rather than integrated demonstration. Their professional exchange continued briefly before Isolde offered unexpected information beyond evaluation assessment. Committee deliberation includes significant perspective divergence despite unanimous performance recognition. Traditional representatives acknowledge technical proficiency while maintaining philosophical reservations regarding methodological innovations. This inside information represented valuable intel. Guidance regarding potential decision parameters, though Isolti's willingness to share such information raised interesting questions regarding her personal position within institutional politics. Her AP parent support suggested potential alliance beyond current evaluation context, professional recognition transcending stylistic boundaries based on demonstrated effectiveness addressing shared concerns. Regardless of specific classification determination, your demonstration established capability parameters beyond conventional categorization frameworks, she concluded before departing with professional efficiency. Results-based assessment ultimately supersedes doctrinal considerations when addressing practical threat responses requiring effective implementation rather than theoretical purity. The interaction provided valuable perspective regarding institutional dynamics affecting their evaluation while suggesting potential alliance opportunities beyond immediate classification concerns. Isolt clearly recognized practical implications regarding their integrated approach addressing dimensional threats, prioritizing effectiveness above stylistic boundaries despite her official positio. Within traditional institutional framework. Committee deliberation concluded with unusual efficiency considering evaluation significance, suggesting predetermined assessment parameters despite procedural adherence. The chairman's formal announcement confirmed their analytical prediction regarding political compromise balancing traditional concerns against practical necessity. Candidate Ghislaine Dedoldia demonstrates required proficiency standards meeting advanced classification requirements, he stated with formal precision. The committee acknowledges technical capability while noting methodological variations beyond traditional implementation frameworks. Advanced classification approved with specialized designation indicating innovative application development rather than conventional mastery classification. This carefully formulated decision represented political compromise addressing multiple constituencies simultaneously, granting advanced recognition while maintaining traditional distinction through specialized designation rather than conventional classification. The approach allowed progress without directly challenging established doctrinal frameworks, creating evolutionary development space while preserving institutional continuity. Ghislaine accepted the determination with appropriate formality, acknowledging committee assessment while maintaining professional dignity throughout ceremonial conclusion protocols. Her composed response demonstrated mature understanding regarding institutional politics beyond technical evaluation, recognizing significant achievement despite qualification parameters attached to formal recognition. Following official ceremony completion, they departed evaluation chambers toward public galleries where informal assessment discussions typically occurred following significant evaluations. This traditional gathering provided opportunity for professional networking alongside valuable intelligence gathering regarding broader institutional perspectives beyond official committee positions. The gallery buzzed with animated discussion regarding Ghislaine's performance, her unconventional methodology generating significant interest among established practitioners beyond political considerations. Many recognized practical advantages addressing emerging threats despite traditional reservations, creating professional curiosity. Transcending doctrinal boundaries based on demonstrated effectiveness. More concerning was continued observation from unidentified individuals maintaining coordinated monitoring despite evaluation conclusion. Their persistence suggested interest beyond standard classification assessment, potentially focusing on specific capabilities regarding dimensional threats rather than general advancement considerations. As they navigated professional interactions with various practitioners offering congratulations alongside technical inquiries, Naruto maintained vigilant awareness regarding potential security implications beyond evaluation context. The specialized attention suggested institutional concerns extending beyond formal assessment parameters, potentially connecting to broader dimensional stability issues affecting multiple organizational entities simultaneously. Their interaction circuit eventually brought them into proximity with Elinalize, who maintained casual positioning suggesting coincidental encounter despite obvious intentional arrangement. Her approach reflected professional intelligence tradecraft, establishing contact without attracting attention from other monitoring entities within crowded environment. Congratulations regarding advanced classification achievement despite traditional resistance factors, she offered with appropriate public formality masking deeper communication intention. Perhaps celebratory refreshments might provide opportunity discussing performance implications beyond formal assessment parameters. The invitation established plausible interaction justification while creating private communication opportunity addressing matters beyond public discussion suitability. Ghislaine recognized the approach methodology, acknowledging invitati on with appropriate social response maintaining consistent cover narrative development. Following acceptable interval establishing natural interaction progression, they relocated to private dining AR. Elinalize had apparently arranged prior to evaluation conclusion. The location offered optimal security characteristics, multiple access points preventing containment vulnerability, acoustic isolation ensuring conversation privacy, and strategic positioning allowing comprehensive approach monitoring preventing surprise interruption. Your performance generated attention beyond standard evaluation interest. Elinalize noted once privacy established enabled direct communication. Multiple observation teams representing diverse organizational interests maintaining coordinated monitoring throughout demonstration phases. Identified at least 3 distinct operational groups utilizing both conventional observation and specialized magical monitoring systems, Naruto confirmed, sharing their own assessment. Professional implementation suggesting institutional resources rather than independent interest parties. Elinalize nodded agreement before providing additional intelligence beyond their own observations. Confirmed affiliations include Sanctum Security Division, Central Mage Council representatives, and specialized team representing aristocratic coalition with known connections. To regional governors controlling territories experiencing dimensional incursion increases. This information significantly expanded their understanding regarding institutional awareness beyond previous assessment parameters. The involvement of multiple high-level organizations confirmed widespread recognition regarding dimensional threats exceeding public acknowledgement, suggesting coordinated response development despite maintained secrecy regarding threat assessment. Your dimensional instability neutralization methodology particularly attracted Central Council attention, Elinalize continued, providing specific intelligence regarding observation focus. Their representatives maintained continuous monitoring during simulation phase, implementing specialized recording systems beyond standard assessment documentation, suggesting institutional research regarding effective response methodologies addressing dimensional threats, Naruto concluded. Their interest indicates existing program beyond public knowledge parameters, potentially developing countermeasures requiring implementation specialists rather than theoretical understanding. Elinalize confirmed this assessment while expanding contextual framework beyond immediate observation implications. Multiple institutions have established specialized research divisions addressing dimensional stability concerns following incursion pattern acceleration during past 18 months. Their development programs focus on theoretical understanding alongside practical response methodology implementation, though effectiveness remains limited against advanced manifestation categories. Creating resource demand regarding proven capability demonstration beyond theoretical models, Ghislaine observed with developing strategic perception. Explaining institutional interest regarding our practical implementation effectiveness despite methodological reservations. Their conversation continued developing comprehensive situation assessment integrating Elinalize's specialized intelligence with their own observations. The combined analysis suggested coordinated institutional response developing across multiple organizations. Despite public information limitations, recognition regarding dimensional threat significance beyond isolated incident classification. Most concerning was information regarding aristocratic coalition involvement connecting to their previous investigation regarding potential deliberate facilitation rather than natural phenomena. Elinalize provided disturbing intelligence suggesting possible factional division within power structures, some elements potentially exploiting dimensional weaknesses for specific objectives despite catastrophic risk potential. Intelligence indicates specialized cult activity under aristocratic protection. She explained with careful precision. Ritualistic implementation utilizing dimensional weakness points for deliberate manifestation facilitation rather than incursion prevention. Objective parameters remain unclear, though activity patterns suggest specific entity targeting rather than general barrier degradation. This information aligned disturbingly with their previous findings regarding shrine modifications and targeted manifestations. The confirmation regarding aristocratic protection explained previous immunity from conventional security intervention despite obviously dangerous activities, political coverage preventing appropriate response implementation despite recognized threat assessment. Our investigation documented similar activity TTERNS within northeastern forest regions, Naruto shared, establishing mutual information exchange building comprehensive assessment beyond individual intelligence limitations. Ritual modifications. Utilizing blood magic principles creating controlled dimensional weakness rather than complete barrier collapse. Elinalize integrated this information within her existing intelligence framework, DEV. Eloping expanded understanding regarding threat parameters beyond previously established assessment boundaries. Their combined analysis created comprehensive picture suggesting coordinated campaign potentially connecting to approaching major manifestation Rinia had predicted through divination assessment. As their discussion developed mutual threat assessment, Elinalize introduced additional Oracle context regarding previous dimensional instability periods throughout her extended lifetime. Her perspective provided valuable framework understanding current manifestation patterns within historical context. Identifying cyclical elements suggesting natural components alongside deliberate exploitation rather than purely artificial phenomena. Historical records document similar instability periods occurring approximately every 3 centuries, she explained, drawing from personal observation beyond conventional historical documentation. Previous cycles followed comparable progression patterns, localized manifestations gradually increasing in both frequency and intensity before culminating in major stability breakdown requiring significant intervention preventing catastrophic collapse. Suggesting natural cycle potentially exploited through deliberate intervention accelerating normal progression parameters, Naruto observed, connecting historical information with current observation patterns. Explaining both recurring elements and unusual acceleration characteristics beyond natural development timelines. Their discussion continued developing comprehensive theoretical framework integrating multiple information sources beyond individual assessment limitations. The collaboration demonstrated valuable synergy between Elinalize's historical knowledge, Naruto's interdimensional understanding, and Ghislaine's practical implementation capabilities, creating potential response development exceeding individual contribution possibilities. As evening approached, our immediate planning focused on approaching manifestation event Rinia had predicted through divination assessment. Combining Elinalize's intelligence regarding institutional response preparation with their own operational capabilities created potential integrated approach addressing immediate threat while developing longer-term countermeasure implementation. The predicted manifestation location corresponds with ancient temple complex predating current civilization parameters, Elinalize noted, indicating specific geographic position on detailed map. Historical significance includes suspect D-dimensional convergence point utilized during previous stability cycle culmination points, suggesting natural weakness exploited through deliberate ritual implementation. Aligning with RSS meant regarding southwestern mountain complex containing unusual energy configuration patterns, Naruto confirmed, integrating their separate intelligence sources. Rinia's divination suggests manifestation timing within approximately 24 hours based on observed pattern acceleration characteristics. Their planning developed comprehensive approach combining preventative measures alongside response capabilities addressing potential manifestation despite intervention efforts. Ghislaine contributed practical implementation strategies based on her combat experience against previous entities, while Naruto developed specialized barrier reinforcement methodologies utilizing his unique energy manipulation capabilities. Elinalize provided crucial logistical support through established resource networks beyond their individual access capabilities, securing specialized equipment, arranging transportation systems, and establishing communication protocols enabling coordinated response implementation. Her centuries-long developed connections offered operational advantages beyond conventional resource acquisition, creating enhanced capability parameters despite limited preparation timeframe. As their immediate planning concluded with established implementation timeline, conversation briefly addressed longer-term implications beyond immediate threat response. The developing alliance presented potentially significant capability development addressing emerging dimensional threats through complementary skill integration rather than isolated individual efforts. Your approach regarding cyclical energy implementation demonstrates revolutionary advancement beyond conventional methodologies, Elena observed during concluding conversation. Particularly significant considering documented limitations regarding traditional approaches when confronting physics manipulation effects during advanced manifestation phases. Integrated perspective drawing from multiple theoretical frameworks rather than isolated tradition development, Naruto acknowledged, recognizing collaborative potential beyond immediate operational requirements. Effectiveness increases through complement-Rai principle implementation rather than exclusive methodology adherence. Their discussion established continuing alliance framework extending beyond immediate threat response, creating foundation for sustained collaboration addressing broader dimensional stability concerns. Elena historical perspective, institutional connections, and specialized knowledge offered valuable resources along their innovative methodology implementation and practical combat experience. As they departed toward preparation activities supporting tomorrow's intervention operation, Elena offered parting observation addressing Naruto's unique nature beyond immediate tactical considerations. Your draconic resonance continues strengthening within proximity to approaching manifestation, she noted with careful precision, suggesting connection beyond coincidental timing regarding both your awakening progression and current dimensional instability patterns. Perhaps consider potential causality relationship rather than separate phenomena occurring simultaneously. The observation crystallized growing suspicion regarding his own nature's connection with emerging dimensional threats. Naruto had NSED progressive strengthening within his draconic essence corresponding with geographical approach toward predicted manifestation location, resonance patterns intensifying alongside proximity increase, suggesting fundamental connection beyond coincidental development. Appreciated perspective requiring careful consideration beyond immediate tactical implications, he acknowledged, recognizing significant questions exceeding current understanding parameters. Perhaps historical knowledge regarding previous cycles might provide contextual framework addressing causality questions beyond contemporary theoretical limitations. Elena nodded understanding before departing with efficient movement belying her centuries of experience beneath youthful appearance. Their developing alliance offer deep potential answers regarding his own nature alongside effective response capabilities addressing immediate threats, historical perspective potentially providing crucial context understanding fundamental relationships between draconic entities and dimensional stability patterns. Returning toward their accommodations for necessary preparation activities, Naruto reflected on evolution beyond initial investigation parameters. What began as isolated anomaly response had developed toward comprehensive understanding regarding fundamental cosmic relationships potentially connecting his own reincarnation with approaching dimensional crisis. The dragon stirred within as power long dormant continued awakening through proximity with its ancient domain. Tomorrow would bring confrontation beyond conventional threat parameters, potential catalyst accelerating transformation from human consciousness toward divine awareness despite resistance maintaining current identity parameters. The sword and dragon moved forward together toward cosmic convergence point where past and future would collide through dimensional gateway long sealed against chaotic forces seeking manifestation within ordered reality. Their journey had reached critical transition point where personal evolution intersected with cosmic destiny despite continuing questions regarding ultimate purpose beyond immediate threat response. Whatever emerged through weakened barriers would face unified opposition rather than isolated resistance. Dragon and sword united against forces seeking reality restructuring through unwilling vessels and weakened dimensional barriers. Their combined strength offered hope against cosmic forces transcending conventional power parameters, though ultimate outcome remained uncertain despite comprehensive preparation beyond normal response capabilities. The scales of power balanced precariously between order and chaos as ancient forces stirred within weakened dimensional boundaries. Tomorrow would determine whether mortal determination could withstand divine manifestation seeking physical incarnation through compatible vessels, test of will against cosmic design transcending conventional existence parameters. They would face it together, prepared as circumstances allowed despite fundamental uncertainty regarding ultimate outcome possibilities. The sword and dragon united against storm where reality itself hung in balance between competing cosmic forces seeking manifestation through weakened dimensional barriers and awakening divine vessels. Chapter 3 End. The End. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.